Stand by for terminal count.
Overlook Horizon High Altitude Balloons, an Ontario County nonprofit.
This is no ordinary balloon.
What a view!
Over 110,000 feet.
This is incredible.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, launch.
Hey guys, good morning. Tori here from Overlook Horizon, coming to you live on a Sunday morning here, and hopefully the end of our hashtag Scrubfest for the week. We're going to cross our fingers and really hope for a launch because things are looking great today. Much better than they have any of the other previous days that we've tried to live stream this and they've tried to launch it. But today looks like, hopefully, it could be the day. It just might happen today. So super excited to see if we can actually get this Falcon 9 off the ground with a GPS-3 mission here. And then we can proceed on with the holidays without knowing, or with knowing that it's successfully launched. So happy Christmas Eve to everybody. And hopefully we're going to see a nice early Christmas present this morning with a launch of the Falcon 9 rocket. So things are good. If you've been following along for, I don't know, the last couple of days or the last couple of weeks, but really it was mostly this week. Started on Tuesday, which was the first real launch attempt for this rocket, which was on Tuesday. But also we had a whole bunch of other rockets that were scrubbed. So Tuesday, SpaceX scrubbed this launch in particular for some sensor readings on the first stage that were out of their nominal range. So that got scrubbed, then it got pushed off, and then we had scrubs for weather, and then yesterday we had scrubs for upper level winds, and that brings us to today. So we've had a whole bunch of attempts and a whole bunch of tries to get to this point, but there was also on Tuesday we were supposed to have 4 launches all on the same day. So we had and they all ended up getting scrubbed. So SpaceX scrubbed for the sensor readings. Blue Origin was supposed to also launch on Tuesday. That scrubbed for, or actually it just got delayed. I don't think they scrubbed. I think usually the difference between scrub and delayed is scrub is usually once they start the countdown. But anyways, that got pushed off on Tuesday because of some ground infrastructure issues, ground equipment issues for Blue Origin. And we also had what did we have? The Delta IV Heavy for United Launch Alliance that was going to launch the super top secret National Reconnaissance Office satellites out of California. That was supposed to launch this past Tuesday. That also has been scrubbed multiple times, and now that's on track for, I think, the 29th, I want to say, is when they pushed that off to. So they had some issues. The latest one, they had the Delta IV Heavy uses hydrogen, and they had some hydrogen outside of the tanks that was a little bit too high for their liking, which is a good thing. They want to scrub, and they don't want a big boom on the launch pad. So they scrubbed for that, and it sounds like it's a little more complicated because they did have to push back by a number of days. And then who am I missing? There was who did we have? SpaceX, Blue Origin, United Launch Alliance. Who's the fourth one I'm missing? The Arianespace Soyuz down in French Guiana. That was also supposed to launch on Tuesday as well and got scrubbed for weather. So we've had a whole bunch of scrubs, and then they were all supposed to go on Wednesday again. We had more scrubs, and then we had Thursday scrubs. Friday, nobody even attempted. Yesterday, SpaceX scrubbed. So, oh my goodness, all these scrubs and delays has led us to this point here finally. Which I'm going to say finally because I'm feeling good about this morning. Right now, they're not tracking any issues. Upper level winds are looking much better. Ground weather conditions are fantastic. The latest weather report from the 45th Space Wing has a 95% chance of successful launch today, or acceptable weather conditions today. That does not include upper level winds, but from what I've heard, there aren't any major upper level winds that are being tracked at the moment. So hello to everybody. I see a bunch of comments flowing in here. So Coaster Musician says hello all. Yuval says hashtag Scrubcember. Coaster Musician hashtag Merry Scrubmas. I like these. Hello, back in Arizona. So yeah, we've got a bunch of people joining us this morning. Hopefully people didn't get too tired out and got sick of waiting, and they're still going to stick around. Blue Dog Cat on Periscope says this seems like the longest launch I've ever watched. It does seem like this has gone on forever. And Social Sandy says Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to you, Social Sandy. And yeah, I like this. Dean Huff said hopefully today we're going to have a scrub-free Sunday. I like this. Hashtag scrub-free Sunday today. And we're going to try to get this launch off the ground. Oh my goodness. All right, well, let's take a look at a couple things here today. See, this gets really hard when they continually scrub, because we've been talking about the same launch for, I don't know, 3 broadcasts now. So I've showed you everything I've had to show you, but we're going to try to recap a little bit. So some of it may be repetitive, but we're going to try to make it at least a little bit interesting here of some sort. But in regards to yesterday's scrub, got scrubbed for upper level winds. And so today's upper level winds are looking a little bit better. Still, I mean, they're still pretty gusty, but the big gusts in the upper level winds, the main portion of that jet stream is that deep dark purple, which is now shifted to the north. So that is really good news for today. You can see Cape Canaveral down here on the east coast of Florida is sitting, I don't know if you can read that, but it's sitting around 60 miles per hour on the upper level winds. Much better, especially compared to up here, which is at 115 miles per hour. So big difference there in those upper level winds, and that really dark purple has shifted north. Good news for SpaceX trying to launch on the east coast of Florida today. For those upper level winds, and ground level winds are no problem at all. So here's your ground level winds, which are pretty calm. We're looking at 5 mile per hour winds here on the east coast of Florida. Nothing really to worry about. So things are looking really good there. Radar, nothing to worry about. So weather is really in good shape here. Not too much in the area of cloud cover. So everything's in much better shape today. Particularly those upper level winds here, which are still blowing hard, but this should be acceptable, assuming there's no major wind shear, which is generally, you've got as you go up in the atmosphere, the wind direction can change drastically at different altitudes. So the wind doesn't all go the same direction at certain altitudes. So this is the upper level winds, but you go down a little bit lower, and the winds can go slightly different directions here. But for the most part, it doesn't appear to me that there's going to be any major wind shear happening. So we're hopefully in good shape. Let's see, what else was I going to show you this morning? I suppose, let's see, let me get my graphic here out of the way. I suppose we ought to take a look back at the map here, which we've looked at a couple times here now, but just to refresh people's memory on what's happening today. So this launch is going to the northeast here. So it's going to be launching from Slick 40 on Cape Canaveral, which is the second SpaceX launch pad here. Not the big launch pad that launched Shuttle and Apollo, but the smaller one that's a little bit further to the south. So they're going to a northeastern direction here. No first stage booster recovery today. So we're going to medium Earth orbit today, which means that they need to use as much fuel as possible to get to medium Earth orbit. And it's not a medium Earth transfer orbit. It is a full circular medium Earth orbit. And I'll explain what I mean by that again in just a second here. But this is what our map looks like. The orange area is the marine hazard map there. That is where they're expecting the first stage and the payload fairing to come back down. As far as I'm aware, there is no fairing recovery operation happening at all. There's no recovery attempt because the Mr. Steven boat is on the west coast. So Mr. Steven, the big boat with the net on it, is not here to catch the payload fairing. But in the earlier attempt on Tuesday, they were going to have a support ship out in the ocean, soft landed on the water, and then just have that support ship called Go Pursuit go pull up next to it, pick it up, put it on the boat, and drive it back. But last I heard, at least yesterday, they were not going to do that. I didn't hear anything different today. So as far as I'm aware, they're not going to, it's just going to be completely expended, which is getting kind of rare for SpaceX. So the first stage is going to be completely expended. Payload, the fairing is going to be completely expended. And so everything's just going to, this is a little more old school. You know, it's kind of amazing that we're saying that now, that this is a rare occurrence, but it is a little more old school today, that they're just going to expend everything and to get them into medium Earth orbit. And then, just in case you're curious, the second stage, after it makes an orbit around here and gets into medium Earth orbit, they will do a disposal burn here, and the second stage is going to come. Second stage debris here will come down in this area off the west coast of southern Africa. So there is another hazard there as well for marine traffic. So where are we going? Oh, I should have gone to the different graphic here. So where are we going today? Today we're going to medium Earth orbit. And we can switch over to here. So here's our mission patch here for today. SpaceX broadcast above my head. That will go live here probably usually they start at least the beginning of the live broadcast about now, but they haven't started it yet. So usually they'll probably start here in the next 3 or 4 minutes. We'll see them go live, and then we'll switch over to that full screen once they do. But here's the mission patch here for today and today's timeline. So we've started propellant loading, so they are go for fueling this morning. The RP-1 rocket-grade kerosene is being loaded into the Falcon 9 already. They've already given the go-ahead to start doing that. And that's always a good sign, because that means they're really going to actually give it a real good shot here for today. In addition to that, they're also loading the liquid oxygen. Did I say that already? I'm sorry. I'm doing like 14 things at once. I was trying to get, I lost my comments here. There we go. Whew. All right. This is what happens when you have a one-man operation. I lost all my comments. Couldn't figure out where they went to. So, all right. Let me back up. So we talked about fuel loading. So they'll go back down. Hopefully we get to T0 and we see a launch today. We'll have max Q shortly after liftoff. We'll have first stage cutoff and separation. That first stage will be completely expended and not recovering that at all. So we won't see anything in terms of a landing or recovery for that. Fairing deployment, no recovery for fairing. That's going to be expended as well. We'll maybe just see that kind of float off in the distance in their onboard camera. We'll have second stage cutoff, and then there's a big long coast phase, which I don't know if we're going to stay live for that whole thing. I suspect SpaceX is probably going to shut it down, because this is an Air Force mission that is a national security mission this morning. So I don't think they're going to show satellite deployment. So we probably won't stick around for the entire satellite deployment process. It's a really long process, because they're going to have after second stage cutoff, they have a 1-hour coast. Then they're going to restart the second stage. Circularize the orbit into medium Earth orbit. Then they have another like 50-minute, that's 50-minute coast as well, and then deployment. So deployment is not till like 2 hours after launch. I don't think we're going to stick around quite that long, but we'll definitely stick around after launch a little bit, all the way up to second engine cutoff. We'll do some giveaways on the YouTube channel for our YouTube commenters, and then we'll call it a day, and we can go on to the holidays. So Jonathan Calvert on Facebook says, is this the last takeoff of the year? This is the last one for SpaceX. There is another launch scheduled later in a couple of days for United Launch Alliance. That's the big Delta IV Heavy. So that's scheduled to launch still this year. But this will be the last one for SpaceX for this year, capping this year off at a record number for SpaceX at 21 launches for this year, which is fantastic. Last year they did 18. This year they did 21. So new record for them. Most number of launches for SpaceX in a single year. And hopefully it can just keep going up from there, because we got a lot of exciting stuff coming up for 2019. This is the 72nd SpaceX launch overall, 66th Falcon 9, 39th launch from Slick 40, 20th Falcon 9 of this year and the 21st SpaceX launch of this year. The other one was Falcon Heavy. Seems like forever ago. Falcon Heavy launched back in February, but we got some more Falcon Heavies coming up. Some news about the Falcon Heavy that they just released, and that's that they're going to try to do a rapid reusability for Falcon Heavy. They're going to launch the STP-2 mission, or no, maybe it's Arab. I forget which one's first, Arabsat or STP-2. I think maybe it's Arabsat that's first. They're going to launch Arabsat and then do a quick recycle and use the same boosters, all three of them, the center core and the side boosters. They're going to reuse all three of them rapidly for the Air Force STP-2 mission. So they're trying to do a quick turnaround there for Falcon Heavy. So that's going to be exciting. That's coming up soon as well in the next couple of months. We still got some time. That just keeps getting pushed off further and further, but hopefully that I'm excited to see that, and we got to get that off the ground as well here. But we also got some crew demo missions coming up, uncrewed demo missions coming up. So there's a lot of stuff happening. All right, let's see. What did we see for comments? Hello to all, says Gordon. Sebi Time Waster says, will it launch today? I think so. I think as long as we don't have some sort of vehicle issue, I think we're in good shape, at least from a weather standpoint today. Hopefully, we're gonna see what we can what we get today, but yep, 15 minutes before launch. Yeah, we're coming up quick. I should get a clock up here so that we can see how long until launch. But we're on track for 8:51 a.m. Eastern Time. That's 13:51 UTC. That is when we're going to launch today. Christopher on YouTube says, "Did I win yet? Not yet. The giveaways are after launch. We got to wait till we launch, and then we'll do some giveaway contests on the YouTube channel." So. Will the East Coast see it? If you're down by Florida, you'll see it. But if you're up a little bit, further to the north, you're not going to see too much. It is taking that big northeastern track, but you still got to be kind of in the Florida-ish area if you're going to see anything. Give us a shot of the rocket, please. I don't have a shot here. SpaceX will pull it up on their broadcast here shortly, so we'll see it live. It's just been kind of sitting there for quite a while here now. Let's see. Blue Dog Cat on Periscope says, giveaway here, please. Unfortunately, the giveaways are only on the YouTube channel because we use a lovely randomizer bot called Nightbot that chooses the giveaway, and unfortunately, it only supports YouTube. And that's how the giveaway winner gets chosen, is chosen randomly, is by Nightbot. And so Nightbot is only YouTube. So after launch, you can head over to youtube.com/OLHZN, and you just got to throw in a comment, say hello. As long as we get a successful launch, then we'll do some giveaways here. I've got stuff in front of me here to give away. Zen City wants to buy a planet. All right, good luck with that. Let's see, what else? I thought it was a GPS satellite. Yeah, today is a GPS satellite for the Air Force, but this is considered a national security mission for the Air Force because GPS is a national security issue. I mean, it sounds, we're all so used to it on such a daily basis with our phones and, cameras that have GPS and cars that have GPS and, all these things that we have with GPS. You have to remember, GPS started as a military technology, and is still very much used as a military technology. And the military, they were very slow to release it, and they were worried about releasing fine accuracy with GPS. So when they originally released it, it wasn't really fine accuracy that the general public could get. But yeah, this is still considered a national security launch. Even though it is just a GPS satellite, but still considered national security because it will definitely be used by our military to upgrade our GPS systems. So interesting that we're 10 minutes from launch and they haven't gone live yet. Usually they're live by this point. So Yeah, because we're, I guess, 11 minutes to launch, and SpaceX is still kind of just hanging out here. Not live yet, but that's all right. We'll keep going. Let's see. Rocks at the Stars says I should be able to see it. I'm on Boca Grande. I'm not exactly sure where that is off the top of my head, but if you're in the Florida area, you might get a look at it. Might be tough because it is during the daytime, but you might be able, depending on how far away that is from Cape Canaveral, you might be able to see it. Look east, right? Yeah, east. Kind of east, northeast. That will be where it's headed. Let's see. Do they let it sink, or does it become a coral reef in the ocean? Generally, with these expendable missions, I mean, it's unfortunate, especially if you're concerned with the environment, but this is the way that rocket launches have been for decades, and only recently did they start gracefully recovering them. But for decades, and including today, these first stage boosters will come down and they smash into many pieces when they hit the ocean, because it is very much an uncontrolled landing in the water. So it's going to come down at hundreds of miles an hour and hit the water very hard and smash into a million pieces. Occasionally you get big pieces that wash up on shore. We saw a couple months ago there were some big pieces that washed up on the beaches of the Outer Banks in North Carolina. There's been pieces that have washed up in France from SpaceX launches. So, many months later, it'll float its way to France and wash up on shore on a beach in France later. So occasionally these bigger pieces can float for a while, but most of them, when it smashes into a million pieces, and they usually sink, and that's kind of the end of it. I'm not 100% sure on what's going to go on with the fairing, because they were originally planning on soft landing it. So, but now that they don't have the ship out there, I'm thinking that they're just going to let that smash into a million pieces as well, but I'm not 100% sure. I doubt they'll address it today, but I don't know. Let's see. Greetings from Germany. Hello, KevCon from Germany. I just got a notification from SpaceX YouTube channel. We've got a. I don't know. I've got it up, right? I'm on the right live broadcast. Because now I'm starting to get worried. I feel like I'm missing something, because this is pretty late. S. Mead said they should start cleaning up they want to start cleaning up the rocket debris, which is actually what SpaceX is doing. They're really the only ones that are doing that by being able to recover and reuse these. That's a very, very new thing for rocket launches, is just to be able to recover it and not smash it into a million pieces. So, there we go. Now they're going live. All right. I was beginning to worry that maybe we were on the wrong place. I wanted to make sure that we were at the right stream. There's been so many live streams. I didn't want to make sure we're at the right one here. So, all right. So we'll switch over. We'll listen to what they have to say this morning. They'll probably recap a lot of what they recapped the last couple attempts, because it's still the same launch. And hopefully we'll see it launch. We'll chat after. We'll give away some stuff. So let's check it out.
Good morning from SpaceX headquarters in Hawthorne, California. It's Sunday, December 23rd, and you're looking at a live view of the Falcon 9 rocket as it awaits its 8:51 a.m. Eastern Standard Time launch from Cape Canaveral Air Force Station in Florida. Today's launch is of the GPS-3 Space Vehicle 1 satellite for the United States Air Force. My name is Michael Andrews, and I'm a part of the supply chain team here at SpaceX. For those of you just joining us, we had launch attempts Tuesday and Saturday mornings. Yesterday's launch was scrubbed due to some strong upper winds, but we have good news. Weather's looking good right now, and we're clear to proceed with today's launch attempt.
All right.
Today we're launching a satellite for the Global Positioning System, commonly known as GPS. Now, you've likely heard of GPS satellites, which provide a diverse range of positioning and timing services around the world for both civil and military purposes. Today is the first launch of the latest generation of GPS, known as GPS-3, which will introduce new capabilities such as improved accuracy, improved anti-jamming capabilities, and an extended service life per space vehicle. We have 4 more GPS-3 missions contracted with the U.S. Air Force upcoming in the future.
This morning, we'll be launching the GPS-3 satellite into a highly elliptical transfer orbit, with the ultimate destination being medium Earth orbit, or MEO. Now, due to a combination of satellite mass and the MEO orbit, we will not be attempting to recover today's first stage, as we need to reserve enough propellant to get the payload to its intended orbit.
I didn't think they were doing
My name
an
is
elliptical
Shiva.
orbit.
I'm a Falcon integration and test engineer here at SpaceX.
That's it? Okay. I didn't think they were doing an elliptical orbit. I thought they were going direct to medium Earth orbit.
We're about T-minus 4.5 minutes to the launch. Weather remains positive, and we're tracking no constraints to the launch. You'll notice the transporter erector, that large truss structure next to the rocket, will be retracting away from Falcon 9 to provide a clearance for the Falcon 9's liftoff. Now, we're also currently finishing propellant load on the rocket. Falcon 9 uses a refined form of kerosene called RP1 for its fuel, and super chilled liquid oxygen, or LOX, as its oxidizer. Now, RP1 is currently fully loaded on both the first and second stages. Liquid oxygen is fully loaded on the first stage and nearly fully loaded on the second stage. And we'll be closing that out at T-minus 3 minutes and T-minus 2 minutes, respectively. So, with Falcon 9 now moving into the final stages of terminal count, the vehicle remains in good health. About 60 seconds before liftoff, you'll hear final announcement that Falcon 9 is in startup. That'll mean that the rocket has switched to its internal flight computers and they will be autonomously controlling the launch countdown. So, with just about 3.5 minutes to go before launch, let's pause here and listen to terminal count.
Yeah, so pretty abbreviated broadcast from SpaceX this morning. They probably got sick of repeating the same thing over and over again as well. So we're at 3 minutes, tracking no issues. That's a good sign. They're going to bring it all the way down to T0, and hopefully this will go today. It is a beautiful looking day. Beautiful blue skies down at Cape Canaveral, Florida.
Stage 1 LOX load closed out.
So we've gotten further than we've gotten in any of the other launches. We got a hold call at T-minus 7 minutes on Tuesday. We got a hold call yesterday at 3.5 minutes. So we've passed both of those points, and now we're gonna count it down. So a couple things to look at. I should back up because I'm confused about the medium Earth orbit thing. He said they were going into a highly elliptical medium Earth orbit, which I'm very confused by, because if it's an elliptical medium Earth orbit, they could recover the first stage. So I was under the impression they were going to a true medium Earth orbit, circular orbit, which is what they needed all the propellant for. So not sure the answer to that one. Maybe he was misspoke,
Stage
or
2
maybe
LOX load closed out.
I have my information wrong. Not sure. But all the smoke you see coming off, that's completely normal.
On internal power.
Condensation there. Look for a big vent here in a minute and a half. It's on internal power now. And I'm going to try to be quiet here towards the last minute so we can actually hear it. And I'll turn up the volume even a little more. We want to hear those engines roar. Here comes the last big liquid oxygen vent here.
Let's close out this started.
It is a beautiful looking view this morning. Come on, baby. Let's do this.
Falcon 9 is in startup.
This is the mission director. Go for launch.
All right. Mission director. Usually we get a launch director. It'll be go here at T-minus 30 seconds. Maybe the mission director is...
Gas closeouts are complete.
Here we go.
All right, it's 15 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition, liftoff. Merry Christmas, GPS.
Stage 1 prop is nominal.
Look at that. What a view.
Power and telemetry nominal.
And here we go. We've had a successful liftoff of the Falcon 9 vehicle carrying the GPS-3 space vehicle into transfer orbit. We're a little bit less than a minute into our launch, and we're preparing for that point of maximum aerodynamic pressure known as maximum Q.
Very naked looking Falcon 9 this morning because we had no landing legs on it, no grid fins, all of those. They didn't even put them on because there's no landing attempt for the first stage.
And we've hit our point of maximum Q. These are the strongest loads the vehicle experiences during liftoff. At this point now, it's just an easy acceleration up into our desired transfer orbit. All is looking good with the stage 1 trajectory.
Experiencing maximum aerodynamic pressure.
There's max Q. That main engine cutoff should be about 2 minutes and 45
now we'll have a
seconds
very
after
busy
launch.
next 90 seconds. We have 3 events coming up: main engine cutoff, stage separation, and second engine start number 1. That first event, main engine cutoff, or MECO, is where all of the 9 Merlin 1D engines you see roaring right now on the screen on our Falcon 9 first stage are going to shut down. This is then followed by stage separation, or the separation of our first and second stages. And finally, the second engine start, where our MVAC, our Merlin vacuum engine, on the second stage engine lights up. You just heard now we're starting to pump cold liquid oxygen through the plumbing of the MVAC engine to prepare it for ignition, just like we did with the Merlin 1D engines before liftoff. And just a reminder, we're not going to be recovering that first stage. So after stage separation, we'll be providing no views of that first stage, only the second stage and the payload.
Yeah, no recovery on that first stage, which is weird. It does look very weird without grid fins and landing legs. This is also a very long burn here on that first stage.
And those 3 events are going to occur in the next 10 seconds.
Any second now should be cut off. There it is.
MECO.
Separation.
Stage separation confirmed.
All right.
MVAC ignition.
All right, this is great. We've had a successful MECO, stage separation, and SES-1. Our next immediate milestone is the fairing deployment. We're going to expose the GPS-3 satellite to the vacuum of space. And at plus 3 minutes and 21 seconds.
Fairing deployment should be pretty much right now.
Separation confirmed.
There it is.
And there you see the 2 fairing halves have separated and fallen away from the vehicle, exposing the GPS satellite to space. You can also see one of the fairing halves falling back into the atmosphere in the camera view right there. Everything is running nominally from the second stage to our payload.
Acquisition of signal Bermuda.
All right, so it's off, and the next big thing. So we got a long burn here of the upper stage.
You can see on your screen the MVAC is continuing to burn, raising the highest point of the second stage's orbit, which is also called its apoapsis, into that intended target orbit. Now we're currently in the first of 2 planned MVAC burns, with our next major milestone being called second engine cutoff number 1, or SECO-1. And that's scheduled for T plus 8 minutes and 16 seconds. Now, during SECO-1, we'll shut down the second stage's MVAC engine, which you can see again on your screen here.
And you may have seen one thing that I always like to look at, I find it interesting, is when that second stage
After we
lights.
shut down the second stage engine, we'll enter into the first of 2 planned coast phases.
Long coast phases.
Position in New
Stage 2 is
Hampshire.
following a nominal trajectory.
Nominal trajectory, that's good.
Now, we mentioned this a little bit earlier in the webcast, but we're deploying today's GPS-3 space vehicle into a highly elliptical transfer orbit with a final intended target for the spacecraft being medium Earth orbit, or MEO. Now, for those of you who have followed our webcasts, you may be more familiar with the terms low Earth orbit, where the International Space Station is, and geostationary orbit, where many communication satellites reside in space. Medium Earth orbit is nestled between these two at an altitude of around 20,200 kilometers, or about 10,900 nautical miles above the Earth. Once the GPS-3 space vehicle separates from the second stage, it will use its own onboard engines to raise the lowest and highest points of its orbit to approximately the same altitude in that MEO range. That maneuver is referred to as circularizing its orbit. Now, a fun fact here, GPS satellites are tilted with respect to the Earth's equator by about 55 degrees, and that allows them to provide coverage to the Earth's polar regions. That orbital tilt is referred to as an orbit's inclination, and it takes extra power from the launch vehicle to safely reach. That high inclination orbit combined with a large payload mass are actually why we needed to reserve all of Falcon 9's performance today for the primary mission, and why we did not attempt to recover today's first stage.
Okay, that makes a little more sense to me.
Now we're just under 2 minutes away from SECO 1. Again, that's second engine cutoff number 1. MVAC engine is still burning bright, burning that RP1 and liquid oxygen. And we're continuing to boost the GPS-3 space vehicle into that highly elliptical transfer orbit.
Okay, so they explained it a little more, which that makes more sense to me now. I was a bit confused, but yeah, the high orbit inclination, which is that big northeastern
the
track.
status bar at the bottom of the screen. You might be wondering, why did we have 2 coast phases for this flight as opposed to the typical one? And why does it take us so long to deploy the satellite for this particular mission? It's really twofold. First, this helps us get the vehicle back within the Air Force's ground station coverage, and also the Falcon 9 is very busy during this period. During the second coast phase, we make sure the second stage is completely shut down. The MVAC engine gets purged of that RP1 propellant and gases, which helps us avoid contamination with the satellite. Also, we begin to spin that second stage to help us stabilize the payload for when it's deployed. Once this coast period ends and the Air Force ground station coverage is regained, we're finally ready to deploy that space vehicle. And the MVAC is still firing, and we have just about under 30 seconds to go before that SECO 1 milestone.
And that first stage should be coming in for its hard landing pretty much now. I didn't hear any calls on the communication nets about the first stage, but I wouldn't really expect to hear anything. But all right, so apparently I was incorrect.
SECO.
You just heard the call-outs on the net of confirmation of SECO number 1. Now we're just going to await confirmation of a good orbital insertion from the launch team.
Loss of signal expected, Cape.
Nominal orbital insertion.
And there's that call out for a confirmation of nominal orbital insertion. Now we're going to head into the first of 2 planned coast phases as the Falcon 9 second stage makes its way to the next engine start window. And during each of these coast phases, we'll take a quick break from our commentary, but you'll be able to follow the second stage's progress on the live tracking animation. We'll be back in about 57 minutes to relight the second stage's engine during second engine start number 2, or SES2, which is scheduled for T plus 1 hour, 8 minutes, and 52 seconds. Now, the second burn is much shorter than the first. It's actually less than a minute. And after that burn completes, we'll shut down the MVAC engine a second time during second engine cutoff number 2, or SECO 2, before we head into a second coast phase
Acquisition of
that
signal, Newfoundland.
will last about 49 minutes. Now, after that, we are going to deploy the GPS-3 space vehicle once we're back in that Air Force ground station coverage that you talked about, Mike.
Hey, so let's head into that first coast phase. We'll see you back here live in just under 57 minutes. Don't go too far.
All right, so we've finally got a successful launch here this morning. We got it off the ground and into its initial parking orbit here, and they're going to have a really long coast phase. You can see the gray line there is the trajectory that it started with, and then the blue line is going to be its future trajectory as it comes around for its first lap around Earth. But apparently I was incorrect in the orbit. I thought we were going direct to medium Earth orbit and circularizing it, but I was incorrect by that. So it's going to be a medium Earth transfer orbit, a very highly elliptical transfer orbit with a high orbital inclination, which makes sense. That's the northeastern launch track that they took, so that they can get instead of just going around the equator, they can get really high. They're basically going to get they're going to go really far north and really far south as they go around the Earth. Hard to do without a globe. I should get a globe, right? So I was incorrect on that, but still that's the reason for not recovering the first stage there. But finally, it launched. Thomas Johnson says, will this make our GPS systems better? Yes, this is a upgrade to the GPS system. Primarily, it's for the Air Force, but I believe this is also going to have public use as well. I don't think it's exclusively for the Air Force. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I'm fairly confident that it's not 100% exclusive to the Air Force, and that this will benefit the public as well. But this is definitely national security related, because it will have a lot of military related operations to it. Jack wants to know if I saw the new images of the Starship BFR progress. It's huge. I did see that. I have it pulled up here. I will take a look at that in just a minute. Let's see. I am surprised. I'm surprised that they're gonna be live for this whole thing. I guess I have to figure out what we're gonna do here. Should we do we stay live for the whole thing, or I don't know if I can stay live for the whole thing, because it's gonna be a very, very long time until deployment. But Christopher says, I've watched just about every launch. Doesn't seem like there's a lot of stuff moving around on this one. Yeah, well, yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure. Not sure on that one. Alpha and Mark says, what are those things that appear to fall off the rocket and land on the upper rim of the nozzle? That's generally going to be ice. They're ice crystals, or it's basically frozen. The liquid oxygen is then solidified and frozen into ice. You can see it. Actually, here's a really good shot of it right here. Let me see if I can switch over before they change camera. But right at the top, right up here, this was a liquid oxygen vent here. And so you see a little bit of frozen ice right here. That's ice there. And a lot of times that will freeze, and it can certainly fall down here. Those are just little tiny bits of ice. No big deal. Frozen oxygen, really, from the vent there, the bleed off valve. So yeah, completely normal. Not a big deal. You'll definitely see. You can see little bits of ice here and there. Whether it's ice from the outside of the rocket from condensation that falls off, or the frozen oxygen. Both of those are perfectly normal. I guess we'll leave it at this view here. We want to see we want to see the rocket. That's what we're here for, right? So I guess we'll just leave it at this view here. I could. Oh, hello. Sorry. We'll get our volume up, but kind of just turn it to. Actually, I don't know if I can play the volume because they got music playing. So probably have to mute that. I could put my own music in. I got my own music somewhere. Let's see, what else did I see for some comments? Somebody said, Tori, go have some coffee. Alpha and Mark says, yes, stay live for the whole thing. We have lots of questions that we can get answered. All right, we'll have to see. Let's see, Jason says, launch a micro payload micro payload HAB, like during, I mean, like now you want me to launch a micro payload HAB? We'll probably do another micro payload. We did the one, the Shrimpy by itself. We haven't done one by itself again yet. We still have to do that. So we're probably going to try that this spring and see. It might be one of the first ones that we do for the year, is another one of those micro payloads, or maybe even do one during the like February time frame. Might do one of those micro payloads. We'll see. That's one of our weather balloon flights that'll be coming up this spring and summer. Usually they don't start until late March, early April is when we start doing our flights. Bunch of people still want to know why there's no first stage landing. So they needed all the propellant possible from the first stage. They could not reserve propellant to do the actual landing and recovery. They needed all that propellant so that they could, they're going to a higher orbit than usual. This is medium Earth orbit, or medium Earth transfer orbit. And it's a very highly elliptical, or very high orbital inclination. So in order to reach that high orbital inclination and reach medium Earth orbit, they needed all the propellant in that first stage. So they had to completely burn out those engines. No propellant left to actually perform a landing. So they got rid of landing legs, got rid of the grid fins, and just completely expended this vehicle, which is getting kind of rare for SpaceX. But that was think back, 10, 15 years, that was the norm for all rocket launches, and is still the norm for a lot of rocket launches. You think the Atlas V, the Delta IV, the Delta IV Heavy, nobody's doing these recoveries like SpaceX is. So that's still a very kind of, it's very regular for SpaceX, but very rare in the spaceflight world in general. Let's see. Oh, hey, thanks, Deborah. Deborah, thanks for the tip. Says thanks for all the broadcasts this year. Merry Christmas and happy holidays. Well, thanks very much, Deborah. Merry Christmas to you. Happy holidays to you as well. I really appreciate you supporting the channel and sticking around here with us through all these broadcasts and having some fun. Catherine's she's happy she found this live feed. Very informative. Thank you, Catherine. It's moving quite fast. Looks like it's also moving in owned surface. I don't follow. How much distance far will it be stable from Earth? Oh, so I think it's like asking the orbital altitude, basically. This should be, I believe they said it's about 20,000. What do you say? 20 or 10,000 miles? Not 10,000 nautical miles. Is that right? 10,000 nautical miles. Which was, what is it, like 20,000? Yeah, 20,000 kilometers. So I think that's what they said in the broadcast, was 20,000 kilometers, 10,000 nautical miles, roughly will be the altitude above Earth that it's going to be orbiting. So that's the medium Earth orbit that it will be in. Michelle on Facebook says, thanks for broadcasting. Merry Christmas to you and to the Space Lobster too. Well, thanks, Michelle. Merry Christmas to you. Thanks for joining us this morning. They said 900 nautical miles. I think it's like 10,000 nautical miles, isn't it? Let's see. Love the star. Oh yeah, we can go take a look at the Starship. Why is fire in space possible? I mean, fire in space itself is not really possible. You have to. Oh, somebody. Yeah, I guess somebody thinks this is being faked. So you have to remember, this is a good opportunity for a little bit of rocket education. Fire in space is not possible by itself. You can't just bring, you can't just start a fire in space, because there's no oxygen in space, and fire needs oxygen to burn. So not only does the rocket have to bring rocket fuel, the RP-1 grade kerosene, to burn. I mean, that's what's actually burning, is the RP-1 rocket grade kerosene. But the rocket needs to bring its own oxygen with it so that it can actually create that burning mechanism so that it can generate thrust. So not only do they bring propellant, but they also bring their own oxygen, which is the liquid oxygen that's on board. They make it liquid oxygen so that they can get as much oxygen on board as possible. Liquid oxygen is much more dense than gaseous oxygen, so they can pack a lot more oxygen in the tanks if they use the super cold liquid oxygen. But yeah, the rocket needs to bring its propellant and oxygen so that it can burn the propellant. If they just brought propellant, you can't ignite it in space without the oxygen. You got to bring your own oxygen with you. So that's how fire is possible in space. You can bring your own oxygen. No air to propel the rocket. We're gonna see. I do kind of like. It makes me laugh a little bit because there's somebody on the Periscope that's basically saying how this is fake. But he says there's no air to propel the rocket. That's not how rockets work. Rockets don't need air to propel them. So they're generating thrust. It's like the best way to. If I wasn't in my house, I would explain this because I'm on a wheelie chair. But if I took a ball on a wheelie chair and I threw it away from me, you're going to generate an equal and opposite reaction the other direction. So not only would the ball fly away from me, but I would go backwards just by throwing the mass off of me. And that's what a rocket is doing, is it's ejecting its exhaust. And by ejecting its exhaust, it doesn't need air. It just needs to eject exhaust and eject mass, and it generates an equal and opposite reaction the other direction, which is what propels the rocket. So don't need air for a rocket to work. So there you go. Here's my rocket education for today. Let's see. Does the satellite belong to the government? Yes, this is pretty much all the GPS satellites belong to the U.S. government. There is, as Jason was mentioning on our YouTube channel, there are EU versions of GPS as well. That's the Galileo constellation. Let's see. Just reading through some of the other comments. Does anyone know if the ULA launch is go yet? There's been so many scrubs. The ULA is pushed off to, I think, the 29th. Joy says, thanks for the beach ball. Oh, that reminds me. We should do some giveaways here while we're hanging out. All right, why don't we do some giveaways here on the YouTube channel since we had a successful launch. All right, so if you're watching on Periscope or Facebook, you have to head over to the YouTube channel. It's youtube.com/OLHZN. And we'll do some giveaways. In order to enter the giveaway, all you have to do... Oh, geez. Hello. Hold on. I don't know if you get... All right. Hold on. Sorry, I just blasted my eardrums out in my earpiece here when I was trying... Let's see. All right, where's my... I was trying to get to Nightbot. All right, so what was I saying? Oh, yeah. So in order to enter the giveaways, all you got to do is go to the YouTube channel and enter a comment. Don't enter it yet. Well, you can enter it now. It's just not going to enter you in the giveaway quite yet. I got to get Nightbot fired up here and tracking the comments, and then it will start tracking them. Let's see. Let's move this up here like this, and we'll do this. And all right, so sorry, I'm just getting this set up to track our commenters. All right, so you should be able to start commenting now, and there we go. All right, so I got some eligible people coming in. So anyways, any comments that come in, starting now on the YouTube channel, you'll be eligible to win our giveaways here, which I'll show you what we're giving away. Before we get to that point, just a couple of asterisks that for the giveaways. Apparently, it's quite difficult to give away free stuff, and there are laws that govern this. Which is weird. You wouldn't think it would be that hard to give away free stuff. But unfortunately, the giveaways are only eligible in the United States, Canada, the UK, the European Union, and then there's a couple even exceptions to that, like Quebec. You can't win if you're in Quebec. And then there's a couple of countries in the EU that I can't remember off the top of my head. But if you're on the YouTube channel, in the video description, there's a link to our official rules and giveaways. So if you're in the EU, you might want to click on that and see if you're eligible, because I'm only legally allowed to send stuff to eligible areas, which is crazy. You wouldn't think it would be that difficult to give away free stuff, but it is, and there are laws. Who would have thought? So anyway, anybody that's watched my broadcast has heard me complain about that a million times, and will probably continue to hear me complain about that, because I just like giving away free stuff, and I don't know why it has to be so difficult to give away free stuff. So anyways, all right, so I see the comments are starting to flow in, so that's great. Did you notice how many launches China had this year? I'm assuming that's, yeah, China is on a roll. They will have the most number of launches for this year for sure out of any country. Sebi Time Waster says me wanty. He wants a giveaway. Greetings from Florida. Hello, Florida. What's the giveaway? All right, well, we're going to do a couple of giveaways here. I'll switch it to full screen here so you can actually see what we're giving away. But the first thing we're going to give away is we still got them. They're still around. It's a NASA test mission patch. This is a real mission patch from the NASA test mission. You have to ignore my green screen chroma key technology because it's chroma keying out this part of it, making it transparent. This is actually blue. I don't know why it's chroma keying. My green screen is chroma keying this out, but apparently it thinks there's some green in here. But this is blue, and it's not transparent. You can, if I move it like this, you can like see through it, which is weird. That's just the green screen that's freaking out. But anyways, this is a real NASA test mission patch. The NASA test mission, that's the Transiting Exoplanet Survey Satellites. That is our the new space telescope, a little small telescope, not a huge one, but very important space telescope that NASA launched back in April, launch that I got to go witness in person. And that space telescope is active right now and looking for exoplanets that are transiting stars, basically passing in front of stars and causing the brightness to change just for a brief blip. So if this was a star, when a planet passes in front of it, it dims the star just by a tiny, tiny little bit, just briefly. And that's what the NASA test mission is looking for, is it's looking at hundreds of thousands of stars and looking for those little dips in brightness to try to find exoplanets, planets that are outside of our solar system. So anyways, first thing we're gonna give away is a mission patch. Then we got some stickers, and some other cool stuff that we'll try to give away here. So let's see, what else did we see? Wow, a lot of comments coming in. All right, well, first thing we'll get to, let's just give one away because I'm sure everybody is commenting so that they can win here. So before everybody gets bored, we'll give the patch away to start with. Rick Heller, you win a car. No cars on the channel. I'm not Oprah. He thinks I'm Oprah. I'm not Oprah. I can't give away cars, but we can give away patches. If anybody's got any connections to any space swag, I'd love to give away other space swag. We try to get some stuff in, but we like to give it away for people that like to come to the channel, contribute to the conversation, ask questions. Just like Jason said, he said, I'm glad to hear any real questions answered. Some people are not as lucky to have a science class in school and things like that. So yeah, certainly happy to answer some questions, even if you think that it's all fake and it's all a hoax. I'm happy to try to answer questions that make you think otherwise, because it's not fake, it's not a hoax. And if you want to ask questions, I'll try to answer them the best I can. But anyways, all right, let's get past that, and we'll a rocket giveaway. I should give away. We give away a model rocket, maybe. Okay, so who's going to win a NASA test patch for Christmas time? Let's give it away. Let's let Nightbot choose from one of our people here. And so Nightbot just chooses a random winner. I'm going to click the choose a winner button here, and Nightbot will post it in the comments. It'll probably post it in the comments before you actually hear me announce the winner, just because of the audio delay here. But all right, so here we go. We're going to give it away. NASA test patch is going to 1, 2, 3, roll it. There it is. Jack. Jack is going to get the NASA test mission patch, assuming that Jack is in our eligible areas for the giveaway. There you go, Jack. You've got a NASA test mission patch coming to you. If you want, in order for me to get it to you, what you got to do is you got to go on either Twitter or Facebook. So go to twitter.com/OLHCN or facebook.com/OverlookHorizon and just send me a direct message. Let me know where you want me to send it. You just got to send me your address. I don't share it with anybody. I just get the message, I send it out, and then I delete it afterwards. But you just got to send me a direct message on Facebook or Twitter, or you can go to overlookhorizon.com, use the contact us form, and send me an email that way. It just somehow you got to send me a direct message to tell me the address to send this to. So Jack, head over to one of those channels and send me a direct message. Let me know where you want it to go to, and it's yours. It will go out. Should go out today. And there it is. So where are the eligible areas, says Alpha and Mark. So it's United States, Canada, the UK, the European Union, but then within those, there's a couple of exceptions. So like Quebec in Canada is an exception. You can't win if you're in Quebec. What was I going to say? There's a couple countries in the EU that can't win, but the eligible areas are United States, Canada, UK, European Union, and I think that's it. So, all right. So let's give away a couple of stickers as well, because we got stickers and we got a magnet here. Let me just get my stuff out here. There it is. Where'd my other stickers go? See, we got a bunch of stuff to give away. I got it all in front of me here. Oh, there's my other stickers that I was looking for. Here we go. Okay. What is the foil-like covering that we're going to see? So that's the foil covering there is generally heat shielding and protecting the piping at the bottom of the rocket. Wow, why did it get so blurry all of a sudden? My broadcast just went super blurry on the SpaceX side. Good thing it's not full screen here. All right, if I can get this bag open here, then I can get my other sticker out that I want to give away. Okay. All right, so while we're on the NASA test theme here, we'll give away another NASA test sticker. So here's a different NASA test sticker here from the NASA test mission as well, and we'll give away one of these guys here, and we got a couple more things to give away. So coming up on the this giveaway here, this is going to go to, we're going to roll this one. Still got a whole bunch of eligible users, so roll it. There it is, Thomas Johnston. Thomas Johnston has won the giveaway for the NASA test sticker here. So Thomas, send me a direct message on Facebook, Twitter, or overlookhorizon.com, and let me know where you want me to send it. And this NASA test sticker will be heading your way. Merry Christmas to you for winning that giveaway. All right, then we got a couple of other giveaways to hand out here as well. I got two more that we'll give away. Winner lobster dinner. Well, speaking of winner lobster dinner, the next giveaway here is going to be a Space Lobster Mission Patch sticker. So the Spaceflight, I got excited for a minute. We don't have mission patches yet. We should get a mission patch, but they're surprisingly expensive to have made. But anyways, the next best thing is a mission patch sticker from Overlook Horizon, the Space Lobster mission patch. Space Lobster, of course, is from the Overlook Horizon 15 mission that launched back in August. We sent a lovable and adorable Space Lobster up to 100,000 feet, and he made a treacherous journey up to the edge of space and back on our weather balloon flights. Took some fantastic video footage and photos along the way, came down and came back to us and was auctioned off. So the Space Lobster is living his second life now after he left us for the auction winner. But we've still got his memory, we've still got the hashtag Space Lobster, and we've still got some Space Lobster mission patch stickers. So let's give away a mission patch sticker here as well. All right, ready? 1, 2, 3, roll it. All right, there it is. Mystery Fisher has won the Space Lobster mission patch sticker. So just got to send me a direct message, Facebook, Twitter, or overlookhorizon.com. Let me know where to send the Space Lobster to. All right, I was going to do one more. Let's see. Do I have... Yeah, we've got... Yeah, I think we're going to do one more here. And we'll call it a day. Sorry, my throat's getting a little dry here. I don't have a... Should have brought some water along with me. Usually I have a cup of water here in case I start getting a frog in my throat. But all right, the next one here. This is an Overlook Horizon magnet. I don't know. Have we given away a magnet yet? This is going to be a magnet here instead of a sticker. So we're going to give away an Overlook Horizon magnet. This is our main mission patch logo here for the Overlook Horizon project, the Overlook Horizon high altitude balloons, which will start back up. Our flights will start back up in around March or April, and then continue with a couple in the summer. So stick around for those as we launch some daring missions to the edge of space and back, and then you get to see usually, oh hello, and then usually you get to watch and laugh at me try to recover it out of a tree when it's 80 feet up in the air and I can't get the thing down after it lands, because that's always fun. But let's give away a magnet that you can stick on your fridge or on your car. It's an indoor-outdoor magnet. You put it on your car, you put it on your refrigerator, wherever you want. But here's an Overlook Horizon magnet, and we'll give one of those away. I don't think I've given away a magnet yet, so let's give away a magnet. All right, and the last winner here is, there it is, Mixed Voices Carrie has won the Overlook Horizon magnet. And just send me a direct message, again, Facebook, Twitter, or overlookhorizon.com. You gotta go on one of those three areas. Send me a direct message, give me your address that you want it to send to. I can only send it to the eligible areas. So United States, Canada, United Kingdom, or the European Union, with the exception of some of those exceptions. There's a link in the YouTube video description that has the official areas that are eligible. So there you go. So Mixed Voices Carrie says he never wins anything. Well, there you go. Your luck has changed today, Carrie. So just got to send me a direct message and you got a magnet coming your way. Merry Christmas to you. And Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays to everybody that's won and everybody that's joined us here today, this morning. Let's see. All right, now I got to go back through all the millions of comments that we had here. There was a comment that I saw. Gordon said, don't forget about the pins. They are cool. I didn't forget about the pins. I do still have some pins. I'm much more limited on pins than I am on stickers. So I don't have a ton of pins. So we'll give away the pins on a different day. I also still have a bajillion beach balls from United Launch Alliance to give away. But with all the work that has recently happened around me, those are tucked away and inaccessible at the moment. Hopefully by January, I'll be able to break those back out. And we'll give away some beach balls in January again. So we haven't had those. We haven't had any beach ball giveaways for a while. Just the little stickers and the mission patches. But those should be off, and we'll give away a pin again. We do still have a couple more pins to give away, but those are a little more limited. We're trying to spread out the love here. Do you give away on every launch? Asked Catherine. Yeah, as long as I've got supplies, then yeah, pretty much we're gonna do giveaways on every successful launch. So definitely subscribe to the channel, especially the YouTube channel, because that's where the giveaways happen, is on the YouTube channel. So yeah, definitely subscribe to the YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/OLHZN, which stands for Overlook Horizon. And we will pretty much do giveaways on just about every broadcast. I mean, I've got a lot of stickers to give away still, and we still got a bunch of mission patches left, a couple of stickers left, and we've got a bajillion beach balls left, and we're going to try to get more stuff. So we're going to be giving away things for quite a while on here. So yeah, definitely subscribe so that you can try to win one. I mean, people have been on here for a while, and it took a while, but you know, people are you got a chance to win. It's completely random from Nightbot. What does your background look like without the green screen? Well, it's just green. If I take away the SpaceX background, you're just going to see a green wall behind me. So do you show your balloon launches? Yes, our balloon launches, we do broadcast those live, the launch operations live, and the recovery operations. We broadcast those live as well. So yeah, definitely subscribe along if you want to see our weather balloon launches coming up in the spring and the summertime, because we do live stream those launches. We're working on, I'm still trying to tweak it. I've been playing around with some Raspberry Pis recently, trying to do, we don't have live video from on board the weather balloon, but I'm working on that. I'm trying to get that set up so that I can live stream it. We're going to see if we can do that reliably. I mean, really hard to try to receive a radio signal from a moving balloon that's 100,000 feet in the air. But we're working on it. We're going to try to get some live video. Hopefully we can do it this summer. I don't know. We'll have to see how my testing goes. But that's the goal, is we want to get some live video during the flight from the balloon, which we don't normally get. Usually our live broadcasts, you see the balloon launch, and then we track it live, and then we have to recover it, pick it up, open the cameras, get the SD card out, and then we can look at the footage together afterwards. But we're working on it. Turkey Man says, "Who's talking in your ear?" Nobody's talking in my ear. This is a one-man operation. It's just me here. In my ear is the SpaceX broadcast, so that it doesn't feed back when I play the audio from the SpaceX broadcast. I have to pipe the audio into my ear. Otherwise, you'd get a feedback loop, and that would just rip your eardrums out. So yeah, the earpiece is just so that I can hear the SpaceX broadcast, which you guys hear directly, but I can't just play it over regular speakers, because then my microphone would pick it up and we'd get a feedback loop, and it would just be crazy. Carrie's kids are hugging her. It says excited that Carrie won something. They're super excited and surprised how excited they are. Well, I'm excited that they're excited. So glad they're excited. Happy to give stuff away. Let's see. What did we miss on the Periscope channel? So we've been focused on YouTube for a while for the giveaways. What did we miss on Periscope? Let me check some of the Periscope comments. What time could I see the Falcon 9 over Australia? You're going to have a hard time seeing the Falcon 9 over Australia, because by that point, the engines are not running, which is usually the part that you can see is the actual exhaust from the engine. And it's just going to be a tiny speck in the sky. So you would need a super like computerized telescope to be able to see it in Australia, unless you were looking at like a second stage disposal burn. A lot of times people see the second stage disposal burn, but this disposal burn is happening over the Atlantic Ocean, so you're not going to see that in Australia. But it's not for every launch. Some launches, there was one a couple of months ago. I forget which one it was, but somebody over like Latvia, I think, saw the disposal burn of the second stage. So after the payload, after the satellite had been deployed, the second stage will do another burn to deorbit, or a deorbit burn to re-enter the atmosphere. And somebody over Latvia actually captured video of the second stage deorbit burn, which is kind of cool to see. So that could be possible over Australia, but you probably won't see the actual launch itself or the launch vehicle over Australia. Not for this launch, at least. Let's see, what other hot air balloon on a magnet? No, it's not a hot air balloon. This is a weather balloon on a magnet. So weather balloon. That's what we do, is weather balloons. That's primarily what our channel is, although in the off season it feels more like a SpaceX channel or a rocket launch channel. But primarily what we do is weather balloons. So that's a weather balloon on a magnet. Peter Voyer says, very interesting. Just found you, just followed. Well, thanks, Peter. Appreciate it. Are you in the rocket? No, I'm not in a rocket. Not in a rocket. I'm in my house right now. Don't let the green screen fool you. I'm just at home. But the green screen is way more interesting than looking at my home. I don't think he sees our comments. Well, I see him now, but I was looking at the YouTube comments for a while because we were doing some YouTube giveaways. Why did I not see the plume in Florida? I usually always see it. Well, it was a daytime launch, and I don't know how far away you were. I mean, you depending on how far away you are, you can see the rocket engine fire, for a couple of miles at least. The actual like plume, like the exhaust plume, or like the smoke trail or contrail that you might see, that a lot of times that's going to depend on atmospheric conditions, because you have to have a really moist pocket of air for condensation to form to get like an exhaust trail, like a smoke trail or contrail, or chemtrail if you think that's what they're doing. Yeah, you got to have a really moist pocket of air, which rapidly condenses to cause that gas cloud or condensation cloud or contrail. And I don't know what the conditions were. I didn't look that closely at what the atmosphere conditions were above the launch site to find out if that was going to happen. Do you launch from Palestine, Texas? No, we launch from Rochester, New York. We're in Rochester, New York, so our weather balloons launch from Rochester, New York. SpaceX will be launching in Boca Chica, Texas soon. I don't know where Palestine, Texas is off the top of my head. I'm not, geography is not one of my strong suits. I know where Texas is, but I don't know where your city is there. But Boca Chica is going to be a new launch site for SpaceX coming up soon. Which segue we should look at here. Let me make this bigger here for us to take a look at. And let's see which monitor. This monitor here. Switch over here. There we go. All right, yeah, so while we're here, we'll take a look at some new photos that came out. This is coming from at Robot Beat. At Robot Beat on Twitter posted some photos from the Boca Chica launch site or construction area here of some Starship well, they're not even really mock-ups. These are hoppers. These are going to be ships that actually fly and perform short suborbital hops. Really, they kind of just come up and come back down, kind of like, I'm assuming, kind of like the Grasshopper flights from the early Falcon 9 days. But this is the beginning of the Starship. This is, from what Elon said on Twitter, this is actual width. So that will be actual width of the Starship. But not actual height right now. So they're building it a little bit shorter than they're going to build the actual Starship. But this is actual width. So I don't know. This one's my favorite one here because this is something where you actually see. You're like, wow, that's actually kind of coming together. It's not just a, it's a little more than just a tube. But also of interest, apparently Elon confirmed yesterday that they're using a stainless steel alloy mixture to build the Starship. So you can see you get a little nose cone images here. I think that's it. I think there's just three photos that I have here. But yeah, some new Starship photos coming into view at the Texas launch facility. That's kind of exciting. He said he's on Twitter. Elon said that this is going to fly in early 2019. He wants to have a full technical presentation in the March-April timeframe, which he said will be after it flies. Which means that they're expecting this to fly sometime between now and April. That's kind of exciting. It seems faster than I thought it was going to be. But yeah, we've got some new developments happening there, and it seems like it's moving quick, which I like. I like to see it. A lot of times these projects take years and years and years, and it seems like they're never going to happen. Falcon Heavy was kind of like that. It just took so many years to get it to where it was. When it finally happened in February, it was like, wow, is this really happening? Is this really going to be a thing? And I kind of feel that way with Starship as well. But it seems like it's progressing, which is good. Hopefully it will continue. All right. So, hello. Where did my? Oh, wow. Something weird just happened on my screen. I don't think you guys saw that. All right, that's good. As long as you guys didn't see it. But my broadcast software just freaked out for a minute, but I think we're good. I think we're still live. All right, let me go back. What are we missing? Some comments here. What kind of packages go up in your balloons? So we send up a payload package that has a flight computer and usually 2 to 3 GoPro cameras on board. Usually 2 of them face out the side, 1 faces up towards the top, and the flight computer tracks it the whole time. It sends radio broadcasts back to us on the ground so we know where it is, and also records all the atmospheric conditions like temperature, pressure, humidity, wind speed, wind direction, all that kind of stuff. And sends that information back to us on the ground, and then we go pick it up. We have to pick it up to get the camera footage right now. Like I said, we're working on doing live video from the payload package, but right now it's not live. We have to pick it up to actually get the camera footage. Let's see, what else did we miss? Mixed Voices Carrie says, I went to your Facebook page and sent you my info. All right, thanks, Carrie. I will take a look at that. Can't wait for the Starship. I know, me too. Greetings from Ecuador. Let's see. Oh, John just woke up and tuned in. From the top right, it looks like I missed the show. Yeah, well, we're still live at the moment, but yeah, you'd have to rewind back 53 minutes to see the launch again, because that part is over. The launch is done and has happened. Right now, we're in a very long coast phase that will go until 1 hour and 8 minutes. So we still got like 15 minutes to go here. And I don't know how much longer I can stream for. Remind us what's next for the satellite again. Yeah, so we're in a very long coast phase. Basically, the satellite is getting to its for the most part, it's going to get to its apogee and then burn the engines again. Really short engine burn. Or we might even be getting to. might even be perigee that they're going to do that burn at. So they're going to burn the engines again to change the orbit. I'm not exactly sure where they're burning the engines. I'm guessing it's actually probably perigee that they're burning the engines at to extend their elliptical orbit into a little bit further into medium Earth orbit. So usually you would burn at perigee to extend the apogee. The apogee is the furthest point away from Earth. The perigee is the closest point to Earth. So you would usually burn at perigee to extend the apoapsis, or the apogee, and you can burn at apogee to extend the perigee, and that's would be the rough basic way to circularize your orbit. Hard to explain. We go look at Kerbal Space Program to try to show some of that stuff. So. Let's see. Why no landing? Yeah, they needed a lot of fuel this morning to get to that medium Earth orbit. It's also a very high inclination, meaning it reaches very high latitudes, both on the north and the south portion of the Earth. So in order to reach those so it's got a 55-degree inclination, which means that it hits 55 degrees north latitude, 55 degrees south latitude. So in order to reach those really extreme highs and lows above and below the equator, and also get to medium Earth orbit, they needed all the propellant possible in the first stage. They could not save enough fuel to actually do a landing burn. The Air Force is also kind of hesitant to even allow them to do that on their missions, especially like national security missions. So they're a little bit standoffish on wanting to get involved in the whole like recover booster thing. They're just like, yeah, just get our satellite into orbit. You can do your recovery thing on other stuff. Just for us, just get our satellite into orbit. So let's see. Who's yelling in the background? That's my family. Let's see. The blue orbit is the next orbit. So when you're looking at the map here, blue is what's coming up, gray is where they've already passed. So yeah, the blue orbit is what's happening next. And so why does it change? Well, the Earth is rotating underneath it. So as it gets kind of complicated, but as the Earth rotates and it's going to go around it, it's going to change its ground track on Earth, because the Earth is going to rotate underneath the satellite. All right, what else do we miss for comments here? Did the first stage land? Oh, it landed, just not in one piece. So the first stage, this was an expendable mission. So that first stage, it definitely landed, but it's probably in a million pieces right now because it was not a controlled landing. It was a very, very much an uncontrolled landing, and would have hit the water at hundreds of miles an hour and broken into a million pieces. So, what else did we miss? Where's my other comments? Jonathan on Facebook says, Happy Christmas. Have a good New Year. See you in 2019. Thanks, Jonathan. Appreciate it. What is Blue Origin? Blue Origin is another private space company. That's Jeff Bezos' space company. Jeff Bezos is the owner of Amazon. He also owns a space company, a private space company called Blue Origin. The Blue Origin has two rockets, two space vehicles that they're working on. The first one is New Shepard, and that's the one that is flying right now. New Shepard is a suborbital space tourism rocket, basically. They also do NASA payloads. Their mission, actually, that they're trying to launch on Tuesday was going to have a bunch of NASA payloads on it to reach just suborbital launch. So it goes pretty high. I forget what the altitude is that it gets to, but I mean, it gets pretty high, but it's suborbital, so it's not going to go into orbit. It just it goes pretty much straight up and straight down, give or take. There's a little bit of an arc to it, but for the most part, it's pretty much straight up and straight down, and it does those little suborbital hops there, and that's their New Shepard rocket. It does a propulsive landing of the booster, and they do a hover landing. So they kind of bring the booster down, then they hover it above the land for a little while, and then kind of gently set it on the ground, versus SpaceX, which does the hover slam. SpaceX, the hover slam is basically they time the engine light so that they light it at the exact moment, and then they set it down when they reach zero velocity. They touch down at the exact moment that they reach zero velocity. So SpaceX kind of just times it and goes and just sticks the landing, versus Blue Origin kind of brings it down and then they stop and they hover for a minute and then they set it down nice and slowly. So although slight differences there in the booster landing, and they also land their capsule. Obviously, that's what the space tourists will ride in someday. They said they were going to sell tickets to that beginning in 2019. So if you got a little extra cash lying around, you could potentially go on a suborbital flight with Blue Origin, maybe in a year or so. Let's see. Will they recover what's left of the first stage? Nope. SpaceX will generally not recover that. It's unfortunate, but that's kind of the way rockets have operated for decades. But no, they will not recover it. It smashes into the water, goes into a million pieces, and then it either sinks or occasionally bigger pieces will float and land on a beach somewhere. That's a little more rare, but it does happen. But yeah, generally it just smashes into a billion pieces and then just sinks. So, let's see. Doesn't Virgin have a space program too? Yep, Virgin. There's Virgin Galactic, which is owned by Richard Branson. That's another private space company. They just did a test flight just like a week or two ago of the Spaceship Two, where they reached 50 miles in altitude, which is it's debatable on whether or not they actually reached space. I mean, there's no real definition. It's not like there's a clear barrier that you break through. Or that the flat earthers will go crazy. You say you break through it's where they break through the dome and they get into space. There's no clear line when you break into space. I mean, so you kind of just gradually lose atmosphere, and so the line between space or not space is kind of fuzzy. But they reached 50 miles in altitude with Spaceship Two with Virgin Galactic, which the United States and the NASA and the Air Force give out astronaut wings if you reach 50 miles. So according to NASA and to the Air Force, the pilots that piloted Spaceship Two are officially astronauts. But generally, it's usually thought of 100 kilometers or 82 miles is kind of that's the Kármán line, which is kind of the unofficial boundary of space that I've always gone by, is the Kármán line. So a lot of people say they didn't quite get to space yet. Either way, it's still an accomplishment for them to get to 50 miles with Spaceship Two. So that's kind of interesting. So yeah, they and Mark said, I thought Virgin can only do suborbital hop. Yeah, it is a suborbital hop. So it's like a space plane, basically, that it is definitely suborbital. It does not go into orbit. So that's it was just kind of it was over California, kind of the same thing, up and down. They did not go into orbit. Let's see. I heard the SpaceX uncrewed mission next year will do abort and terminate at the same time. Oh yeah, I just heard this too. So for SpaceX coming up in 2019, we have the first uncrewed demo mission. Hold on, before we go into that, I want to turn the volume up in my ear just a little bit, just so I don't miss them coming back live. So we have the uncrewed demo mission coming up in mid to late January. That'll be the first demonstration of the capsule itself. That'll be hopefully normal flights. It'll launch. I believe they're going to rendezvous with the space station in that demo mission, and then they're going to come back to Earth, and that'll be pretty straightforward. Then they're going to do an in-flight abort in a couple like springtime, and that in-flight abort, from what I've heard, I just originally thought it was just a regular in-flight abort. They'd launch the Falcon 9, they would trigger and abort for the capsule, let it fire off away from the Falcon 9 and do its whole abort sequence. But I just heard the other day that they're going to do abort and terminate, meaning they're going to basically intentionally explode the first stage. I don't know. This is what I heard. I don't know if that's 100% true or accurate. I've not seen any documentation to this, but that would be amazing to see. I mean, so from what I heard, it's going to launch the first stage. They're going to intentionally blow up the first stage and trigger an abort. So you're going to see the abort sequence and an exploding first stage of a Falcon 9 rocket. That seems kind of crazy to me. But we're going to see, we'll have to see when that happens. I don't think that's going to be until like, probably springtime, maybe even late spring or early summer. Not sure. I mean, the first crewed missions are scheduled for like June, so it's potentially scheduled sometime between January and June of next year. But those dates seem to keep getting pushed farther and farther. Hopefully, they don't get pushed too far. But I'd love to see that. What else do we have? You're not breathing oxygen. Oh, they're back.
If you're just joining us, we had a smooth liftoff at 8:51 a.m. Eastern Time, followed by separation of our first and second stages. We then had a successful lighting and shutdown of the second stage Merlin vacuum engine. Since then, the second stage has been in a coast phase, orbiting around the Earth and boosting up to that desired transfer orbit. The next major event is coming up at T plus 1 hour, 8 minutes, 52 seconds. It's the second relight of our second stage engine called SES number 2. The second stage will burn for much less, for 47 seconds, before shutting down for a second time. This event is also similarly called SECO 2. First, though, we're going to show a video that provides a recap on the expanded capabilities of GPS 3.
I think I got to turn this down. This is the this video. This is what they played yesterday, and they've got music playing in the background, so I can't play the audio that goes along with it. Otherwise, YouTube will freak out, and they will ban my video and give me a copyright strike. So you can take a look at the cards. If you want to actually see the video itself, you'd have to jump over to the SpaceX channel and take a look at the video and listen along with it. Sorry, so I was listening to see what they were having to say, if there was anything that I could comment along with it. But they're just throwing in little bits and pieces. But yeah, head over to the SpaceX channel if you want to see and listen to the video at the same time. Because unfortunately, when they throw music on there, YouTube freaks out and they tell me that I don't have copyright permission to play that video or play that audio, and so they freak out, and it's just not fun. All right, let's see. What other comments did we miss here? Alpha and Mark says his name is Troy. Well, you're close. My name is Tori, but you're close. Can Blue Origin supply the International Space Station? Not currently, no. They don't have any contracts to supply the space station yet. So, we're talking about Blue Origin while they're doing this GPS thing. They also have another ship coming, New Glenn. Oh, they're back.
Engine coming up again. That's the event SES2, or second engine start 2. That's about less than a minute away. We're actually looking at the second stage engine from a camera mounted on the side. Gives us good visibility and a visual confirmation of engine start when that event happens.
Yeah, so we just did a really long coast phase, and now they're going to
so again, less than a minute away
light up the engines
before
again.
Second engine start number 2.
Yeah, so I think it was 108 or 109 that should be lighting up. 108.51. Yeah, right there.
There you can see on your screen. Relight of the second stage engine. Now, this is a very short burn. lasting just about 45 seconds. That's because the MVAC is still producing just as much thrust as it was before, but it's significantly lighter now because we've consumed so much propellant on the way up.
Yeah, so nice short burn. This is basically the last engine burn. Then they have another really long coast phase and then deployment. I don't know. I don't know if we'll be able to stay live for that whole time. Maybe we might try. But this burn should last until well, pretty much like now. There it is. There's shutdown.
There's confirmation of MVAC shutdown. That's second engine cutoff number 2. And we're just going to wait for confirmation of a good orbital insertion.
Nominal orbital insertion.
And there's that call out for nominal orbital insertion. So we're going to head into a second coast phase now that's going to last about 49 minutes. And when we come out of that coast phase, we'll be back in Air Force ground station coverage.
Loss of signal, Western Australia.
That's going to be that when we come back into that Air Force ground station coverage,
Acquisition of signal, Auckland.
Ready to deploy the GPS-3 space vehicle. And that's scheduled for about T plus 1 hour and 58 minutes. So with that, we'll see you back here live in 47 minutes.
All right, so that's the end of that again. So nice little quick burn there. And then satellite deployment is not for another 45 minutes. Let's see. Sorry, I'm looking at a bunch of Twitter notifications. See if I missed anything that was major here. I don't think so. Yeah, so there it is. We're just about to the end here. Oh, so we're talking about Blue Origin. We're talking about Blue Origin. Blue Origin also has, they're working on the New Glenn rocket, which will be an orbital class rocket. So their New Shepard rocket is a suborbital rocket, but they're working on New Glenn, which is a huge orbital class rocket. That will be a very, very large rocket. But that is not out yet. I wonder if I can pull up some image. Yeah, here we go. This is what I was looking for. Is this? Yeah, this doesn't have the BFR on it. That one does, but it's time. Let me see. I'm just trying to pull up an image here for you so I can show you. I want to see if I can full screen an image here that you might be able to see. Here we go. There, this might be better. Let me see if I can see if we could switch this over. Let's see, which screen is it? This screen? This screen. There you go. So here's kind of an image comparison here of the different rockets that are out there. So you got the space shuttle on the left, and then you've got the Falcon 9 with the Dragon capsule on it, and then you've got a Falcon 9 with a payload fairing on it. Then you've got the Falcon Heavy. Then you've got the two Blue Origin. Those are the two different New Glenn configurations there for Blue Origin. So that's going to be a big rocket. Then you've got the Saturn V. Saturn V, although the color kind of looks different. Then you've got the SLS rockets, and then you've got the two different iterations. That's like 2016 and 2017 BFRs that are on the right. It's not the new BFR is not even on this image, so this could be still updated. But the BFR or the Starship and the Super Heavy rocket, which is what they've been renamed. The Super Heavy is the actual rocket, and then the Starship is the upper portion that will carry crew. So that's going to be massive. But yeah, a couple comparisons there, so you can see what we're talking about. size-wise here. All right. How did we get on that topic? Wow, the space shuttle looks so small. I know it does look kind of small in that comparison there. Gordon's giving me permission to go. He says you can go. It's Christmas time. I know. I don't know. We're gonna see. We'll see how long I can stick around here. We might have to wrap it up because I got so much stuff I got to do around the house for Christmas time here. Let's see. Mr. Knowledgeable Space. Jonathan Lazarus says, Dear Mr. Knowledgeable Spaceman on my screen. Is that me? I think that's me. Why are parachutes not used to scrub off some speed on first stage landing attempts like the Falcon 9? So parachutes are notoriously not accurate for landing. So you have a very difficult time controlling where the spacecraft is going to go if you're using a parachute, because you're relying on wind, which can push you off course, and it can drift in all sorts of different directions. And so generally it's a lot more accurate for them to use the engines if they can just use the engines, because they can control. They can aerodynamically control and control with thrust and gimbaling on the engines. They can more precisely control where it's going to land. And that's particularly important for SpaceX, especially when they're trying to land on a drone ship in the middle of the ocean, or when they're trying to bring it back to land and land on a launch site. I mean, if you had a big giant field that it could land in, or if you look at like the boosters on the space shuttle, those did land. They brought the boosters back with parachutes, and you could land a booster with parachutes on land, assuming it doesn't hit too hard. You have to make sure it's kind of soft. But they landed the boosters with parachutes. The solid rocket boosters on the space shuttle with parachutes. Those technically landed. It was just they needed so much ocean that they just had to kind of land in the water. So it's not really, it's not that accurate to use a parachute, just because you can, and you couldn't really use a parachute for like the entry burn or something like that, because at that area it's going so fast. I mean, you need such a crazy, you need like one of those crazy supersonic parachutes, like the Mars Insight mission just used, or something like that. And at that point, I mean, you'd have to deploy a parachute, and then you'd have to get rid of it. And so it's just easier you've got the propellant on board, just light up the engines and use those. Let's see. It's always hard to read these comments because I have to go. I see like snippets and they're out of context. I have to go back a whole bunch of comments to make sure I'm reading them in context. Space shuttle was not small. It was just packed differently. Yeah, that's a good point from Sebi Time Waster. The space shuttle, yeah, it wasn't really that small. Yeah, it was just packed much differently because you had the two boosters that were on the sides. You had the space shuttle that was on top of the external tank, which was on the back. So it was much more like, packed in kind of a cluster, instead of just being all vertical like the Falcon 9 is, like the BFR would be, or the Starship. So yeah, it wasn't, I mean, there was a lot going on with the space shuttle, just much different design setup than Starship will be. How much longer before we get to meet the Vulcans? Well, I'm assuming, are you talking about like the Star Trek Vulcans? I don't know how long that's going to be. But speaking of Vulcan, I did want to bring that up actually, because somebody asked about the parachutes thing. The Vulcan, which is that's ULA's new rocket, is called the Vulcan rocket. That's still in development right now, but that they are planning to get into the recovering the first stage game with the Vulcan rockets, but they have a different method to do it using parachutes. Their method, which will be interesting to see, is they're going to parachute the first stage back instead of using propulsive engines for landing. They're not going to land on a ship like SpaceX is, or Blue Origin's New Glenn is planning to use a drone ship to land on it as well. So we'll have two companies that are landing on drone ships, but United Launch Alliance is planning on using parachutes and then having like I think a helicopter come like grab the parachute before it reaches the bottom and then like carry it back to land. So that'll be kind of crazy to see. That's something different. But the Vulcan is supposed to use parachutes instead of landing propulsively. Do you think they will add the gravity wheel when they go to Mars to simulate gravity? I don't think you're going to have any simulated gravity on the Starship, and the main reason for that is really the way you'd have to simulate gravity. Like the Starship, it's going to be big, but it's not really big enough to simulate gravity. So in order to trick your mind and simulate gravity, I mean, you can simulate gravity by spinning the Starship, but you'd have to spin it so fast, and it would be so, it's so small for your mind that you'd end up making yourself sick. You'd have to have, in order to simulate gravity, you'd have to spin an enormous structure so that, the problem is like when you're spinning, you're spinning the outside. Like let's say this is where your head is and this is where your feet are. And when you're spinning like this, your feet are moving and your head is moving. And really, if your head is moving too fast, because if you're thinking about it, like the Earth is spinning, you're standing right here, but your head doesn't really feel like you're moving that fast. It feels like you're just standing still. So you can spin and not get sick. But if you're having to spin that smallish, I mean, it's going to be big, but compared to gravity, from an artificial gravity standpoint, you're going to have to spin that relatively small spaceship pretty quickly. Your head is going to be spinning pretty quickly, and it's going to make you sick. You're going to simulate gravity, but you're going to get yourself sick in the meantime because you're going to get dizzy, and it's going to feel odd. So the way you'd have to simulate gravity is you'd have to make a huge structure and spin it so that your head didn't spin around that fast, and then you could simulate gravity. But that's kind of unnecessary at this point. We just go in weightlessness and go to Mars. So no, I don't think they're going to do any sort of artificial gravity on the way to Mars. Let's see, what else did we miss? I presumed it was being built in space, just about sheer mass of it being. I'm not sure what that's about. Is there something attached to the rocket? It looks like ice. Yeah, usually there's like frozen oxygen that'll come out of the, right here. This is a liquid oxygen relief valve here. So this is a bit of frozen oxygen right there. That has come out of the valve and frozen. The white chunk of stuff. Yeah, I'm assuming that's what we're talking about. What happened? Yeah, that's what they're talking about. The ice there. Yeah, that's pure. That's basically pure oxygen ice. It's oxygen that is now in solid form, like even right here, that's a bit of oxygen, solid oxygen there that is frozen, that's floating away, coming from here, because that's an liquid oxygen relief valve right there. Let's see, a Tesla mission again. No Tesla today. This is just a GPS mission for the Air Force. They'll be launching a GPS satellite here into medium Earth orbit, deploying it shortly. We're just waiting on that deployment, and then we can all go have a happy holiday and a Merry Christmas here. But we've got another long coast phase coming up here. Let's see. Did we miss any other? Where'd my Facebook comments go? There they are. And my Periscope comments. I like to. What does BFR stand for? Haha. It sounds to me, Fredzuki, that you know what BFR stands for. But BFR was the former name. A lot of people still call it BFR, but it's the big Falcon rocket, or the big effing rocket, or whatever you want to go by. That's the newest rocket under development by SpaceX. They've now renamed it to the Super Heavy, which is the booster part, and the Starship, which is the upper stage where astronauts will actually go in. So the Super Heavy and the Starship is the new name, formerly known as the BFR and the BFS. Used to be the big Falcon rocket and the big Falcon spaceship, BFR and BFS. Now it's called Super Heavy and Starship. Let's see, what else do we got? Somebody says Elon is a clone. This is all fake. Hopefully they'll find my car keys up there. All right. No first stage landing today. No, well, there was a landing, just not a controlled one. So they did not recover it. It was an expendable first stage today. How do space launches handle airtight devices in negative pressure of space? I'm not exactly sure what you mean by that, but it's not necessarily negative pressure in space. There's just zero or zero-ish pressure in it's a vacuum of space, but usually, so like the payload fairing, I think maybe this is where you're going. The payload fairing has vents in it as it climbs through the atmosphere. So, I mean, one of the things, there's only really like 15 psi difference between ground level pressure and space, because there's really not that much difference in pressure between. There's a lot of difference in like atmosphere thickness, but pressure wise, it's only like 15 psi of air pressure at the ground versus basically 0 psi in space. So not a huge pressure difference, but they do account for that by venting the payload fairing so it doesn't like explode or become overpressurized. But it's still not even, I mean, those things like the tanks, the fuel tanks, things like that, those are meant to handle like huge amounts of pressure, and the difference between ground level air pressure and the vacuum of space is really not that big of a difference. Let's see. What's the temperature where the rocket is now? Cold. I don't know the exact temperature, but it's cold. When the liquid oxygen gets warm over time, it gets gaseous, needs to be vented, not explode the tanks. Yep, so that's the reason for the vent. What produces the ice? That's what produces the ice on the outside. Yeah, so the liquid oxygen is like super, super cold. And then that's as it warms up, that can pressurize those tanks, so they do have to vent it off. And they also have to use they also have onboard helium as well. So one of the other big things on a rocket that some people forget about too is you've got to be able to push like your propellant out of like into the turbo pumps and the turbofans to get out the rocket. And when you're in zero gravity, that is very difficult to do. So they have to bring their own onboard helium as well, and they pump helium into the tanks because helium's an inert gas, so it's not going to explode. But they pump helium into the tanks to keep, as they are losing propellant, they have to add helium so that the pressure stays the same, so that it keeps pushing the propellant out of the tanks. It's not enough you can't just fill up a tank and then just expect it to drain. Once you get into no gravity, the fuel's not going to drain. It's just going to float around in the tank. So you got to pump helium in, which will pressurize the tank or keep the tank pressurized so that it pushes out the end and into the turbo pumps and out the engine nozzle. What is the altitude in miles of the payload right now? Well, the current altitude is 3,070 kilometers, which is about 1,900 miles, 1,900 miles. in altitude is where it sits right now. Altitude is right here in the top right corner. They're going to show it in kilometers, I'd have to do that conversion for you. But they're going up pretty quickly. They're approaching about 2,000 miles in altitude, so they're getting there, going up into that medium Earth orbit. Why aren't we seeing other satellites or space debris? So this is a common question that comes up, especially from like flat earthers and things like that. Why aren't we seeing other satellites and things like that? Space is huge. Satellites are not. They're very small. And they intentionally make sure that they don't launch these rockets where other satellites are. You don't want to be that close to another satellite because it's going to cause issues. You're going to run into it or something like that. So number one, they're not going to launch near satellites. Number two, even if they're like near a satellite, which would be, miles away, you're still not going to see it because the satellite, in the grand scheme of things, is going to be so small, it's just going to be a speck on the screen. You're never going to see it. You'd have to have, the light would have to be just perfect and reflect off it so you see it in the camera. They're too small. Space is too vast and too large to be able to see those other satellites, especially when the background, they have no lighting to them and the background is black. So you've got nothing really to reflect. You'd have to have like perfect reflecting the light directly to the camera that you're looking at. So yeah, that's kind of why you're not seeing other satellites or space debris. And again, generally they intentionally launch it away from that sort of stuff so they don't run into it. Let's see. Where are the stars? Not the one in your graphic. Well, again, that's another thing that a lot of like flat earthers bring up. Stars, it's the same reason why you can't see stars during the daytime on Earth. It's just camera exposure. So if you set up, like this camera in particular is set up to expose and be able to clearly see the engine bell, the piping, and the rocket itself. If you tried to expose that camera so that you could see the stars, the engine bell and the rocket piping would just be completely washed out because you wouldn't be able to, it'd be so overexposed so that you could see the stars. So this is exposed so that you can see, it's intended to see the engine, and you're just not having enough exposure to see the stars that are behind it. That's how photography works. It's the same reason why you can't see if you got a blue sky and you look up in the sky during the daytime, why you can't see stars. Stars are still there, you just can't see them because your eye is not taking in that amount of light, or you're taking in way more light because of all the the sunlight and everything else. You're just not able to see the stars during the daytime. Same concept here with these cameras. Just because you're looking at a black background doesn't mean the exposure is any different. You're still exposing just to see the engine components, not to see stars in the background. So yeah, sorry Russ, I didn't mean to equate you as a flat earther. It's a common thing that flat earthers bring up, or people that don't believe in like the moon landings and things like that, as they ask about the stars. So apologies, I didn't mean to offend you, but I just like to bring it up because it's a big question that comes up. People ask why they can't see the stars. It's all about exposure. So there you go. Hope that answers your question. Let's see. Never a trip and fool says, always nice to learn something. Never knew that helium was used to push the fuel to the rocket in space. Yeah, so it's another gas that they have to bring. A lot of people forget about the helium. It's actually the helium tanks. If you remember, the Amos 6 pad explosion for SpaceX were actually caused by the helium tanks on board the rocket. So they have a couple of gases that are on board the Falcon 9 rocket. They've got the kerosene, the RP1, which is the propellant. They've got the liquid oxygen to carry with them so they can burn the propellant. Then they also have the helium that they use as a pressurant that keeps the tanks pressurized. As the tanks drain, they got to keep them pressurized. And it was those helium tanks that burst during the Amos 6 launch pad explosion for SpaceX. That was back in, what was it, like 2016, I want to say? But SpaceX had a big explosion on a launch pad with the Amos 6 satellites, and the reason for that was one of those helium tanks burst, and caused a big boom. So let's see what else we got. Yeah, now we're just kind of killing time, waiting for what do we got to get to? Where's my timeline here? So here's what we're waiting on. I guess I could show you guys so that you see what we're doing here and what's happening at the moment. So this is the timeline of events. We're pretty much, we're at the last item of the day. We've gone through everything else. We're down to the very last thing at the bottom of the list. We're waiting for 156. So still got about 20 minutes. And then we'll have the GPS-3 deployment. And we're about halfway there in this last coast phase. So another long coast phase here. We're getting there. We're making our way towards it. We're trying to keep things interesting. Chatting about some stuff. What else do I have on here that I could show you? I suppose there's other things that we could take a look at, but I don't know if there is. A lot of this stuff is not applicable to today. I've got a whole bunch of graphics that are up from previous launches, but I suppose we could probably just keep it up on here. I wish I could play the SpaceX music that they have, but I don't want to get in trouble by YouTube. Or maybe in the future I'll just have some music ready that I can play in the background. All right, let's see. In Virginia. Who's in Virginia? I'm not in Virginia. All right, what else can we talk about space news here wise? We've got a couple, well, we still got a little ways to go. Elon had that big tweeting spree last night. I don't know how many people get notifications from Elon on Twitter. He was on a big tweet spree last night, tweeting all about the BFR rocket that people saw in. Oh, here's something that's kind of interesting. We could show this. But Elon was tweeting all about the BFR rocket yesterday. Answering questions, which I always love when he does that sort of thing. But this is somebody posted this on Reddit today, or maybe it was yesterday. It's titled "Really Bad Photoshop" from the pictures. So I guess somebody took Photoshop and grabbed the different components of the Starship and then tried to put them together. So here's kind of a rough idea, maybe, on what the little mini Starship is going to look like. So again, Elon said that this is a photoshopped version of the couple pictures. This is not what it looks like right now. They're in separate components, but this has been photoshopped together. But I guess this gives you kind of a rough idea on what it's going to look like. But Elon has said that this is actual width, but not actual height of what the Starship is going to be. So it will be taller. The actual Starship, just it will be this width, which you can see. Maybe there's not any people down there. There's some vehicles down there. I don't see any people. I thought there were people down at the bottom, but I don't see any people, at least not in this picture for scale. But you can see there's a couple lifts and some vehicle like on the bottom right. There's one of those orange lift vehicles. Gives you kind of a little bit of scale there, but there's something, an interesting photoshopped version from those pictures that we looked at earlier. Titled on right directly on Reddit, it says "Badly Photoshopped BFR." All right. It would look so cool to see this go past the International Space Station. That would be kind of interesting. I watched the earlier launches in the early days of Falcon. Looks like the launch was close to buildings, aren't they worried about explosions? So the launch pad is not, I mean, there's some support buildings there, but they're support buildings. I mean, they could potentially be damaged in an explosion, but generally their main concern is to be like, let's make sure there's no explosions, because I mean, not only would you have to worry about buildings, but even just the pad infrastructure, like the transport erector, the piping on the launch pad itself, and all the wiring on the launch pad. And I mean, the launch pad is not just a concrete block. I mean, the launch pad is a whole system, and essentially it's kind of like a building in itself. I mean, it's not really a building, but there's a lot of infrastructure there. There's piping, there's wiring, there's fiber optics, there's expensive equipment, there's all kinds of stuff. So when an explosion is going to damage a lot of stuff, and the buildings there are actually probably the least of their worries. I mean, there's a couple small buildings that are around Slick 40, a couple small SpaceX buildings there for support people. There's nobody in those buildings during launch. They have to be, I think the closest, there's like a team of like 6 people, from what I've been told. There's like a team of like 6 people that are allowed to be like 1 mile from the launch pad. But most everybody else has to be a minimum of 2 miles away from the launch pad during launch. And on Slick 40, I think like it's just over 2 miles is the closest you can get. The press site is like 3 miles from the launch pad. So there's nobody really anywhere close to that rocket when it's being launched. What else? Photoshop, just like the pictures of Earth. Right. Let's see. At this distance, how will the satellite stay in Earth's orbit? Yeah, so this is actually, this distance that today's satellite's going to, this is medium Earth orbit, which is still well within Earth's sphere of influence. Even geostationary orbit, which is even further, that's where most communication satellites go to. This is not even going that far. This is going to medium Earth orbit. That's still well within Earth's gravitational sphere of influence. Geostationary orbit is even further than that. That's where communications go. That's still within sphere of influence. And then you've got the moon. You got to remember the moon is, I don't remember, is even further than that. Way further than geostationary orbit. And that's still being pulled around in orbit of Earth by Earth's gravity. So Earth's gravity has it's a very large sphere of influence. So certainly not a problem for a small satellite going. It's all about speed, really, and the difference in velocity between the two bodies. But yeah, as long as you get the speed correct, the gravity will try to pull it back, and it'll just keep falling towards Earth and just keep missing it, going around and around and around. So no problem there for medium Earth orbit. What else did we miss? Thanks, that makes me feel better. The ISS did film the launch of a support rocket. I think he means Soyuz rocket the other week. Yeah, I think Alexander Gerst, the German astronaut, while he was on the space station like a month or two ago, filmed one of the, I think it was the failed Soyuz launch actually, but they filmed other Soyuz launches recently from the space station. The space station would pass overhead and they would film the launch of the Soyuz from the space station, which is kind of cool footage to see. I always like to see that kind of thing. Oh, I just accidentally closed my Periscope comments. Hold on, back it up. I gotta get my Periscope comments back. Oh man, now I just lost all the Periscope comments. Well, if you left me a comment on Periscope, you're gonna have to comment again because I lost them all. I accidentally closed the window, and I never understand why Periscope does this, but I can't go back. It basically just clears my comments if I reload it, so I can't see any of the previous comments. So if you had a comment on Periscope, you'll have to, and I didn't get to it, you'll have to send it over again. But it's a good opportunity to say, while we're here waiting, we're going to We're going to wait for deployment here, which is just a couple of minutes away, and then we'll wrap things up probably pretty quickly after deployment because we've been going for a while. But we, while we're waiting here, I probably take the opportunity to remind you to subscribe to the YouTube channel, follow our Periscope, follow our Facebook, and if you like hanging out with us this morning, you like some of the questions, or you like some of the answers, or you just like what we're doing in general, hit that like button on the video or throw some hearts over on Periscope. I appreciate it. It lets me know that there's people out there that actually like what we're doing and have some fun with this. So I have fun, but I have even more fun when you're having fun with me. So throw some hearts over on Periscope, like the video, subscribe to the channel, all that kind of stuff. You know what to do. But that's how I know that people are enjoying this sort of thing. So what will be the medium Earth orbit for this one, for this GPS? So this satellite will be in an orbit that's about 10,000 miles or 20,000 kilometers in altitude at an inclination of 55 degrees, which basically means it's going to hit 55 degrees north latitude and 55 degrees south latitude, and kind of oscillate between those two latitudes as it orbits the Earth. So it's a 55-degree orbital inclination, and it's 20,000 kilometers in altitude, or 10,000 kilometers, or 10,000 miles in altitude. Yeah, the wiki, he says, wiki writes that medium Earth orbit for GPS is around 20,200 kilometers. Yep, I think that's, I rounded it to 20,000 kilometers, but yeah, I think officially it's 20,200 kilometers in altitude, which is about 10,000 nautical miles in altitude. So that's where this will be sitting. That's officially medium Earth orbit. It's higher than low Earth orbit, which is where the space station resides. Space station's in low Earth orbit, which is only like, what is it, like 200 and something miles? I forget what I can't remember these now. 254 miles in altitude is where the space station is. So you gotta, if you're comparing it to where this GPS satellite is going to go, the space station's at 254 miles. This is going to 10,000 miles, so much further. Space station's at only, so 254 miles, it's about 400 kilometers. This satellite is going to 20,200 kilometers, so much farther than the low Earth orbit that the space station is in. And then geostationary orbit altitude is like 35,000 kilometers, so a little bit further than that is geostationary orbit, is out at 35,000 kilometers, which in miles, I gotta do some conversion here, but yeah, it's about 20,000 or 22,000 miles. 35,000 kilometers is where geostationary orbit is, even a little bit further than that. So how redundant are rocket control systems? So we've talked about this kind of in some of the previous footage, but the biggest redundancy is in the onboard computer system. There are 3 onboard computers on the Falcon 9 rocket, both the first stage and the second stage. Each have 3 onboard computers. One of the things that SpaceX does that's kind of interesting is they use all just off-the-shelf hardware. So a lot of the like space shuttle or some of the other rockets that are out there, they use like space-hardened components to protect them from cosmic radiation. So cosmic radiation in computer software can cause bit flips. So let's see if we'll try to explain this whole thing. So in computer science, bits are the ones and the zeros that run basically everything about a computer. And the onboard chips that store those ones and zeros, they can be affected by cosmic radiation if they're not space hardened. And so you can get a cosmic ray that comes in and hits a chip on the circuit board, and can cause, if you've got some piece of data that has a 1 stored in it and it gets hit by a cosmic radiation, that can cause the chip to change it to a 0. And now all of a sudden you're like, oh, hold on a minute. That's not what it was supposed to be. And now basically cosmic radiation is changing the data in your onboard computer. Luckily, cosmic radiation is kind of sporadic all over the place. So it's very unlikely for a cosmic ray to cause a bit flip on two different places at the same time. Their bit flips in general are rare-ish, but they happen. So cosmic radiation can cause those bit flips, and the computer can go haywire because all of us, I mean, a bit flip can be, depending on where that bit is, it can cause a huge change in readings, in sensor readings and things like that. So the Falcon 9 has 3 onboard computers that are all redundant and they're all checking each other. But one of the nice things or interesting things that SpaceX does to keep costs low is they use off-the-shelf hardware, which is not space hardened. So they're basically saying, like, we're going to chance it. We're going to see, we're going to leave it up to, it's possible that a bit flip could occur. But the way they mitigate that is that they have those 3 onboard computers that are constantly checking each other. And so if one of the computers goes nuts and suffers from one of those bit flips, the other 2 computers they put the brakes on it. They say, hey, listen, buddy, you're wrong. You got to reboot yourself, start over again. And so the computer will automatically reboot the affected computer. The other 2 computers will take over, and then they will check themselves during the brief time. I mean, it's not a long reboot process. It's not like you're sitting at home on your Windows 95 machine and you got to wait 20 minutes for it to reboot. It's a pretty quick reboot process, but the other 2 computers will tell it to reboot itself, and then they'll cross-check again, and they'll say, all right, figure it out, get yourself sorted out. It'll recalculate itself, and then as long as everything's fine, generally it'll restart itself, get its sensors put back together, and digitally speaking, and then they'll be fine. So that can occur, and that happens in real time, and presumably, I don't know if they've ever documented cases. Well, I'm sure they've documented it, but I don't know if they've publicly released cases where that's happened. But I believe that is a common thing that can happen on launches from time to time, is they'll have one of their computers that just suffers what they call an anomaly, and one of those anomalies could be a bit flip from cosmic radiation, and then they has to recycle the computer while the other 2 take over and continue flying the ship there. So that's one of the redundancies that it has on board. Some of the other redundancies that you might not think about, like, it's got 9 Merlin engines on there. That's a redundancy there. They could lose an engine and still continue. So, one of the things that does not have redundancies that we just saw, what was it, 2 or 3 weeks ago, is the grid fins during landing. So we just saw in the CRS missions a couple weeks ago that the return to launch site landing failed. One of the grid fins got stuck hard over and stopped responding, and so it started spinning like crazy. And Elon had said on Twitter that those grid fins and the actuators and the control systems have no redundancy to them. So if they fail, because they're safety critical but not mission critical, meaning that a grid fin can fail and it doesn't affect their primary mission, which is getting the satellite into orbit. But a grid fin failing could be a public safety issue. So they don't have redundancy because it's not super crucial. So a grid fin can fail and it's not the end of the world, which it did fail a couple weeks ago. But one of the ways they mitigate that on the grid fins, and a lot of people didn't realize this with the way Falcon 9 does the return to launch site landing, is I don't know if we can show a map of this. Do I still have my map up? I might not have my map up anymore. Well, I'll explain it in words. So when the Falcon 9 does a turnaround and a boost back and goes back to the launch site to do its return to launch site landing, the engines target a spot in the water just slightly away from the launch site, so that if anything goes wrong, it will ballistically land in the water. Meaning, if the engine doesn't light, if it boosts back and nothing else works at that point, it will just land in the water. And that's a safety thing, so that if the landing burn fails, if the grid fin fails, if anything fails on the rocket itself on its way back to the launch site, it targets a spot in the water. And so as it's coming back to the launch site, those grid fins actually cause the Falcon 9 to have aerodynamic lift. So it's coming in engine first here. The grid fins are like up at the top here, let's see, I got to do it like this way. So the grid fins are up here at the top, and it's coming in engine first. We'll say these are the engines. Comes in like this, engine bell first. The grid fins push down on, they cause it not to roll, but they also push down on the top of the rocket and cause aerodynamic lift. So it almost flies like an airplane a little bit, and so it pushes down on the rocket and causes lift and pushes the rocket to the launch site, or the landing site rather. And so the grid fins are very much important to actually getting it back to the actual landing spot, because they cause that lift to push it to the final landing site. And if anything happens and goes wrong with those grid fins, which we saw on the CRS-16 mission just a couple weeks ago, it's not a huge issue. I mean, it's not going to make it to the landing site, but because the grid fins failed, it couldn't push it all the way back to the landing site, and therefore it landed in the water. So there, something interesting for the day. It's from a couple weeks ago, but that was that is one of the things that came out from the failed landing attempt a couple weeks ago. Let's see. 10 miles equals 20,000 kilometers. Yeah, well, I'm rounding here, so I mean you can't. 10,000. Yeah, I think it's 10,000 miles was 20,000 kilometers. But I was very much rounding those numbers, so you can't do a direct conversion on my numbers there. I was definitely doing some big rounding. Let's see. Radiation shielding is hard and adds a lot of weight. Yeah, so they're not doing, so going back on those computer systems, they're really not doing a lot of radiation shielding on the computer systems because, yeah, like Sebi Time Waster said, it's adding weight, it adds complexity. Oh, hey, they're back. All right, let's turn the volume back up.
8:51 a.m. Eastern Time. So far, we've had successful ascent of the first stage, successful stage separation of the second stage from the first stage, and the second stage is now in a good high elliptical Earth orbit after completing 2 planned MVAC burns. We've got just one more major milestone to complete today's mission, which is deployment of the GPS-3 space vehicle from the Falcon 9's second stage.
Exactly, Shiva. The GPS-3 Space Vehicle 1 satellite is attached to the top of our second stage via the PAF, or the Payload Adapter Fitting, which holds onto the satellite via some clamps and some springs. Now, when the time comes to deploy the payload, those clamps release, and those springs, which have been compressed for the duration of the launch, will finally be able to fully extend, and collectively they give the GPS satellite a gentle push away from the top of our second stage.
And on our screen, actually, is a view of of our second stage. We're actually looking at the MVAC engine. We're looking at a view from those cameras that are on the back of the second stage. And we're about a minute away from satellite deployment. Now, after deployment, the spacecraft will use its own onboard thrusters to slowly raise into that circular medium Earth orbit. And kind of cool here, we're almost at 8,500 kilometers up above the Earth.
Yeah, in terms of our longitude, you might see a little sliver of the Earth. We're actually around the same longitude that you and I are at today here in Hawthorne. It's kind of unreal thinking we've already circumnavigated the globe just during this webcast.
Yeah.
So we're going to watch. We're expecting within the next minute to get a visual confirmation and a call-out confirmation of that payload deploy.
Yep, just waiting on deployment here. Should happen any moment.
So again, if you're just joining us, so far the second stage is in a good high elliptical Earth orbit, and we're about hopefully 30 seconds away from spacecraft separation. You can see the spacecraft on your screen there.
So that's the spacecraft there on the left. We're kind of looking, we're on the second stage, like looking up towards the spacecraft. If it was still vertical, it's kind of horizontal now, but it's also spinning. If you see in the Earth top right, you can see it spinning a little bit. There it goes.
Spacecraft separation confirmed.
You can see the
And there
engine
it is, a
bell on the
successful
spacecraft itself.
separation. You can see the space vehicle gently floating away to continue its mission and achieve that medium Earth orbit. And with that, SpaceX has achieved our primary mission, which will bring our webcast here to a close. We'd like to thank the Air Force for entrusting us with this mission, and we look forward to the future GPS-3 satellite missions in the future. Also, we want to thank the satellite manufacturer Lockheed Martin. A special thanks also to the 45th Space Wing for range support and to the FAA for the licensing of today's mission. And thanks to you, for all of our viewers, for tuning in.
Now, our first launch for 2019 is currently scheduled to be the Iridium 8 mission, and that's the final launch of the Iridium Next network of satellites that's currently targeting January 7th. But until then, from all of us here at SpaceX, we hope you have a happy and safe holiday season and a happy new year.
All right, there it is. We finally did it. The end of the hashtag ScrubFest is over, and SpaceX has got their they got their GPS-3 satellite launched. It's done. It's in orbit, and we finally got it there just in time. A Christmas miracle, if you will. We've got another GPS satellite up. A slight spin there, you can see on deployment. That's pretty normal. It spins for a little bit of stabilization. The second stage, Catherine wants to know what happens to the second stage. The second stage will do a deorbit burn. So it's technically not over. SpaceX really never shows that, but the second stage will do a deorbit burn as responsible spacefaring citizens. They want to get their space junk out of there, so they're going to do a deorbit burn, and they will they'll bring that second stage back to Earth, and it will land uncontrolled landing, mostly break up in the atmosphere, but uncontrolled landing in the waters off the west coast of Africa. So that will happen over the next couple of hours. They will do that deorbit burn as well. And yeah, so Iridium 8 is coming up at the beginning of January. That's the next scheduled launch. We should hopefully be live for that as well. So make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel and following along on Periscope and Facebook and Twitter and all that kind of stuff, so that you can join in with those as well. And let's see, what else do we want to say about this here today? I don't know. I think we pretty much covered it. We were here for a long time this morning. We've got some giveaway winners. I saw a couple messages while we were waiting from the giveaway winners. So if you won one of the giveaways, make sure you send me those direct messages so I know where to send your stuff to. I think I already got a couple of them I saw. We'll send those giveaways out. They'll go out today. And I think that's it. I think we're going to wrap things up. This was a long one, but ScrubFest is over. The next launch, I don't think I'll be live for it, but will be the United Launch Alliance National Reconnaissance Office is doing, or the United Launch Alliance is doing a launch for the National Reconnaissance Office. Top secret mission is going up. I think it's December 29th. That's scheduled for. So keep an eye out for that. That'll be a Delta IV Heavy, and then yeah, SpaceX. We've got a busy January coming up with Iridium 8, and then DM1 is coming up soon as well. That's the demo mission, the uncrewed demo mission of the Crew Dragon capsule. So, we made it all the way through. We've got a launch. What else? Any final words? Anybody got parting words? What would be the launch? What would be the launch energy in terms as needed for a village in time? I don't know what that means. You're going to have to clarify that for me. I don't understand that comment on Periscope. What else do we say? Trip and Fool said, any chance on doing a show on the Chinese going to the moon or the rovers on the moon? Yeah, we might do. So the Chinese they're planning to land a rover on the moon. I don't know. We'll have to see. What kind of streams are available out there. We might take a look and see. They're going to land I think it's a lander on the far side of the moon. That's already been launched. It has not landed yet. Pony just got here. We're about to wrap up, Pony. So I'm glad you made it, though. Let's see. What is the Iridium rocket launch they were talking about? So Iridium is a set of communication satellites. They've done, I forget how many are in the Iridium network, but it's something like 70 or 50 or 70 satellites. They've been launching them like 10 at a time. They've already done 7 of those launches. They're smaller satellites, but they're communication satellites. So it's called the Iridium Next constellation. And actually, you can general consumers, if you really tech savvy and you have a need for it, you can actually communicate with the Iridium network, either using like satellite phones or our weather balloons. Actually, we can buy. We don't do it right now, but I know of a group. I think it's the group in Maryland, at University of Maryland, that uses it's called a rock block on their high altitude balloon missions, and that's one of the ways. That's their primary method of tracking their systems. We use amateur radio to send radio signals back to us on the ground, so we know where our weather balloons are. They actually use the rock block, which communicates with Iridium satellites and then the satellite communicates back to the ground to tell them where their balloon is. So they're actually using the satellite technology to communicate that way. So that's stuff that's available for communication. It's a gigantic satellite network where they're generally polar orbiting satellites that are all over the place. There's, I don't know, dozens of them that are up there. And so there's always an Iridium satellite overhead pretty much at any given time. And the Iridium Next constellation is replacing the older Iridium satellite constellation. And they have just one more launch to finish that constellation of satellites. So I think there's 10 more satellites as part of that last launch coming up in January. So that'll complete the new Iridium network of satellites coming up beginning of January. So that's what the Iridium is, and you can also see if you're somebody that likes to look up at the sky and see do some star watching or things like that. You can see Iridium. They're called Iridium flashes or Iridium sightings because they're a little bit lower in orbit, and there's a ton of them that are out there. You can get an app. I use an app called, what is that app called that I use on my phone? It's called ISS Detector. It'll tell you like when the space station is passing overhead, so you can go outside and watch it. But it also tell you, in addition to the space station, it tells you all sorts of other things. It'll tell you like when an Iridium satellite is passing overhead, and those Iridium satellites, it's not like the space station. If you ever watch the space station fly overhead, it kind of looks like a slow-moving star. You can spot it at one side, and then it kind of slowly moves across the sky and just looks like a star that goes all the way across the sky. The Iridium sightings are kind of cool to see because they get a quick flash of light and then it's gone. It's just a quick reflection of sun, and somehow they calculate when those are going to happen based on your location. And so if you use one of those apps like the ISS Detector that I use, it'll give you an alert and it'll say, hey, there's an Iridium satellite that's going to fly overhead, and it's going to, you'll see a bright streak of light. And it can be kind of fun to look up in the sky and see. You're like, all right, I know it's going to be right in this general area. And then all of a sudden you get like the countdown on your phone. It's like 3, 2, 1. You get this whoop flash, and then it's gone. And that's it. It's just a quick flash in the sky. It looks like a star that appears for half a second, and then it's gone. So those are kind of fun to watch. So if you're ever looking for something to look up at in the night sky, particularly in the summertime, I don't like to do it in the wintertime, it's too cold, but in the summertime, I like to go out and, or if you live in the southern states where it's not freezing cold like it is outside, looking out my window right now and there's just snow on the ground and it looks frigid out there. But if you live somewhere warmer, it can be fun to watch some of those Iridium flashes. Iridium flare, yeah, there you go. That's the term I was looking for. Aren't they changing materials on satellites so they won't be able to see the iridium flares anymore? I did actually hear that as well. Trip and Fool said they're changing the materials so the iridium flares won't be gone. I think you're right, actually, on the Iridium Next constellation. I think those iridium flares are actually going away. So the iridium flares that I was talking about, I'm glad you reminded me because I forgot about that. But yeah, the iridium flares, that's from the older Iridium constellation. I think Trip and Fool is right. I think they said the newer Iridium Next constellation, they use different materials, and so those iridium flares won't happen anymore. So go see them while you can, while those satellites are still up there, because they are deorbiting those satellites more and more. I forgot about that. Thanks for reminding me. Let's see. Full of H says, if you want to be in a job like this, does bachelor's degree enough, and do you have to be one of the smartest in your class to get the job? I'm assuming you're talking about like an aerospace or maybe like computer science degree. I wouldn't say you got to be the smartest in your class. I mean, obviously you want to try to do well, but there's a lot you can do with a bachelor's degree in any sort of engineering discipline, and engineering, computer science. I mean, there's people that are companies that are even taking people without degrees at all these days. But you definitely increase your chances with a degree. I would always encourage you to get a bachelor's degree in any sort of engineering discipline, or if you want to go on and get a master's or a doctorate or anything like that. There's nothing. I would say there's nothing bad you're going to get out of the education. Maybe a little student loan debt. That's an argument for another time. But the education can certainly be good. And there's definitely a lot you can do with a bachelor's degree. All right, what else did we miss? Only wish would like to tell them what velocity they want to achieve before first stage separation. You can see, I don't have it up here, but there's a website called, it's like Flight Club something, flightclub.io, that will show you, that shows a lot of information about the launch parameters. I think that what you're looking for, and I don't know if I can pull this up in real time here. Here, let me see if I can switch over to this real quick here before we end this. So this is flightclub.io. Sorry, it's taking a little while to load. I don't know if I can do this while my broadcast software is running, because my broadcast software takes a lot of resources. So you may have to do this on your own. But essentially, this, if you want to really geek out on the launch, maybe we'll show this on the next launch here. I don't know if I can do it at the same time as while my broadcast software is running. That's the problem. But this will tell you all kinds of information about the my computer is just not happy with what's happening right now. So this will show you, kind of shows you like a 3D picture of the trajectory, and it will show you velocity at stage separation. It'll show you altitude. You can follow along live. It will do, like, so here, so what it's doing right now is it's kind of like replaying the launch. And you can do this live, and it will, it'll show you like where the first stage, so you can if you want to watch the video and pull this up at the same time. I don't know if I can do this live with my broadcast, so I'd have to figure out some way of doing it. But basically it's, you can see in like the, on the right hand side, there's, let's see, how do I show my, it's got to be a way I can show my mouse on here, right? How do I show, there it is, show cursor. Now can you see my mouse? There it is, okay. So over here, you can see kind of the altitude of the first stage and where it is in flight, and then you would see like here's like separation, where's the altitude the separation occurs at, where the second stage continues, what happens to the first stage. Same thing here. There's velocity, stage 1 velocity, and all this kind of stuff. So you can really geek out on here. Flight Club is pretty awesome. So it's flightclub.io. They have a Patreon too, so definitely support them on Patreon if you like geeking out on this sort of stuff. I love it. I just don't. This takes a lot of resources. My broadcast software takes a lot of resources. I just need like a super crazy powerful computer, which I got a pretty decent computer, but it's not that super crazy powerful yet. So there you go. If you're looking to geek out on some stuff like that, definitely recommend flightclub.io. So it's a website. Let's see what else we missed before we wrap up. What degrees do you have? I have a bachelor's degree in software engineering. Let's see, Thomas, he does look like he needs a little more caffeine. I know I'm getting to the working on a 3-hour stream. We're getting to the end here. Only wish they give more info during launches. Would like them to tell us what? Oh yeah, so that's the one I read already, where we got into the Flight Club. Learning stuff I wasn't expecting. There you go. That's what we're going for. Please link this stuff. Okay, here I can link this stuff. Here's the. I can type this in. There's flightclub.io, right? Yep. Does that get you to the right spot? Yep. So there's a link for that. My computer can handle most games. However, flightclub.io is seemingly buggy and laggy. I like it. I know my computers never seem to run it very well. But there you go. And what else do we have? Was this the military's payload? Yes, this was a GPS satellite for the Air Force today. So this was a military payload and is considered part of national security. So that is what we launched today. All right, folks, what do we at? 2 hours and 51 minutes this stream has been going. I think it's time to wrap this up here. So with that, I appreciate everybody that has been hanging out here today. It's been a very long one, but it was a lot of fun. I'm glad we ended the Scrub Fest and we got ourselves launched. So thanks everybody for hanging out. That's going to wrap it for me for today. Probably going to wrap up for me for 2018 for live streams. So hopefully you'll join us in 2019 for the next SpaceX mission. I hope everybody has a Merry Christmas, a Happy Holidays, a Happy New Year, whatever it is you're planning on doing over the next couple of weeks. Hopefully you have a good time doing it, and you get to see family and friends and eat some food and have a good time, because I know that's what my plans are. So hopefully everybody gets to enjoy this time of year and this season, and hopefully you'll come back and join us in 2019, because we've got some stuff planned for our weather balloon flights, but we've also got more launches to do and more stuff to look at. So this was a lot of fun. Thanks everybody for joining. Again, enjoy the holiday season. Have a good New Year. Merry Christmas. Happy Holidays, and whatever it is that you're doing for this year or this time of year. Hopefully you enjoy it, and we'll see you guys in a couple of weeks for the Iridium Next mission. So thanks again. My name's Tori. This is Overlook Horizon, and we'll see you in 2019. Thanks, guys. See ya.